versus the LA Dodgers.
All right,
Seeing that.
Stop there.
Loss. It's not what you want. They came into the month 8 games above 500. They are now just 3 games above 500. Maybe most concerning, and we'll talk about this coming up in the 12 o'clock hour a little bit more extended. The National League is starting to pull away from you. In the division, you are now 6 games back. You are in 3rd place in the NL Central. In the wild card race right now, you are 5th overall. You are 3 games back of the Padres. The Giants, who I have consistently said that's the team that I think is eventually going to fall down, well, they just keep winning. And they're finding ways to do it. They are now in the top wild card spot. They are 11 games above 500 right now. In fact, they are just 1 game back of the LA Dodgers in the National League West race. So I can't keep suggesting that they're going to fall back if they continue playing this well. Meanwhile, the Cardinals continue to play poorly. Alex, last night, my biggest takeaway from the game was one of the first times that I've seen the Cardinals in a very long time, maybe since that Red Sox series on the road. Just let go of the rope. It felt like in that 5th inning when Sonny Gray was on the mound and he was getting his teeth kicked in, the Cardinals collectively said, we don't have it tonight. We just don't have it tonight. And that is not something that I have seen very often from the St. Louis Cardinals in 2025. We've seen that in the past where they collectively say, all right, not our night. We'll get them tomorrow, boys. This year, even when they get down 5-1, 4-0, we've seen individual games like that, and they find a way to at least make it interesting and many times come back in those kinds of games. They didn't have that in them last night. The offense was cold from start to finish. Credit to the Brewers pitching. They were amazing last night. And then Gray, just on the mound, looked like he had nothing. Just nothing. And he said afterwards, I didn't have my best stuff. Cool, but typically you can find ways to wiggle out of these kinds of jams. He couldn't get himself out of that jam, and I think, hit the ejection button a little bit last night, where he's like, I got nothing, 76 pitches, come get me. I can't get out of this situation right now. They've got something on me. I many times this year, I have left a Cardinals loss thinking to myself, man, they lost, but there were some real positives out of that one. There were 0 positives that came out of last night's game. 0. You collectively let go of the rope. You had nothing offensively. You looked, for the starter at least, like you had nothing pitching-wise. That was one of the worst losses that I've seen from the St. Louis Cardinals, given the context of where they were. #1 starter on the mound, divisional series on the road at Milwaukee, everything at stake with a month left to go, really, before the trade deadline starts to really ramp up. It's one of the worst losses the Cardinals have had so far this season.
Yeah, it's one of the first times this season, the first time this season, that I have turned the game off and had no interest in going back to it, because you could tell that game was over. And the 5 runs that were scored for Milwaukee in that 5th inning, when Gray went out, it's like, okay, this team is kind of kaput here, at least on the pitching side of things. But your offense, as we've talked so much about this season, has the ability to pull you back into the game. That 7th inning was where it felt like they gave up. You had it was the bases loaded, or you had 2 guys on with 1 out.
2 on, yeah.
And then Nolan Gorman doesn't get the hit. Pedro Páez doesn't get the hit. Inning over, you do not score a run. At that point, it felt like the entire team was like, nope, not our night. This one's over. And then it was just bang, bang, game over. It doesn't happen at all this season. It feels like this team is just willing to continue to push and make the opposition feel their ability to come back into games. But that was the first time that it was like, yep, kind of waved the white flag when Sonny Gray got blown up. And look, part of me looks at this and says, when your #1 guy, your stopper, goes and gets lit up in a half of an inning, and 5 runs go on the board and your offense hasn't been able to do anything, I can get it at times where you kind of look at this and say, hey, this is not good. But in the midst of a 4-game losing streak, when that happens, the snowball that we've talked so much about of how they've eliminated it, this is where it starts to feel the pile up a little bit on the Cardinals, because this is the first time it felt like they quit.
Yeah, I mean, watching them over the last couple of games, especially in this losing streak, in the stretch where they've lost 9 out of 13. And the offense, this was really the first night that I kind of agree with you guys, where it's like, oh man, the offense they may not have the answers tonight, right? But it constantly is starting to feel like this is probably not their night. And you feel it early, right? Like the 5th inning, that's not super early, but you kind of felt early on, well, they're not hitting this kid. Like this kid from Milwaukee, that guy's got stuff. They're not touching that guy. And the reason I feel that way most recently has been because they just get shellacked early on, right? Like the Cardinals are constantly chasing after these ball games here of late because their starting pitching's not been good over the last 2-3 weeks. Like you run through their rotation, it's some of the worst. I'm getting emotional because I thought the pitching would be better.
No, you didn't.
I actually kind of thought it would
Somehow
be better
he
than
did.
what it is. But that was tone. But they are falling behind so early on in these games to where even though the offense has been finding a way to claw itself back, it just constantly is feeling like an uphill battle for this Cardinals team. And that is something to monitor, because we saw that kind of broke the 23 Cardinals. Now, they didn't have as good an offense as what this team has, but you think back to that 2023 season, they were constantly chasing after ball games, and they had mentioned to finally just kind of wore on them. I wonder if you start to see that with this team, because they cannot get this kind of starting pitching performance moving forward.
When Mizorowski left the game because of that, like tweaking an ankle, and man, I hope he's okay, because that's a rough way to leave that one, given the fact that he had a no-hitter working through 5. When he left, I was like, okay, this is typically the spot where the Cardinals couldn't get anything going against a stud starter. Like we saw this against Skubal, right? They pushed him out of the game, and then they get to their bullpen, and that's when they start to make their chase. They were already down by so much that it felt as though maybe it doesn't matter this time around, but maybe they can get something going. And then you had the Victor Scott walk. It's like, okay, maybe this is the spot, and then nothing. And then the next inning, Contreras singles, thrown out a second. Burleson single, Arenado single. Maybe this is the spot. And Alex, you mentioned this 7th inning. Gorman fly out, Page's ground out, boom, end of potential comeback there as well. And then it was over. It just fizzled out before it ever really began. And this is the problem with having to come back. The Cardinals are doing some things early on this season that you don't want to have to rely on too much. You like having it in your toolbox, but you don't want it to be the only tool that you can go to, right? The Cardinals were able to come back in these games, and they were able to win with a pitch-to-contact-oriented staff. When you have a pitch-to-contact-oriented staff, though, you start to have to come back a lot. When you have to come back a lot, eventually those start to turn where you just don't have enough left in the tank. You're down by 6 runs. Man, that's a low percentage odds of you actually being able to win that game. So they've got to turn this thing. They've got to stop the bleeding. I thought it would happen last night. You had Sonny Gray on the mound. He wasn't able to get it done. Oh, boy.
Yep.
Fetty time. And you're going up against a couple quality starters over the next 2 games. Peralta today, Quintana tomorrow, lefty on the mound. We've known that the Cardinals don't really have any kind of a rebuttal to those starters recently. So Freddie Peralta it is with his 2.7 ERA on the mound against your lineup, which is scuffling.
Yeah.
You got some lefties in there that should be able to do damage, but many of them are going through a rough stretch right now. It doesn't feel good today, Alex. I got to be honest with you.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, look, this is the scuffling point of the season, that a team either digs deep and finds ways to win when you're not at your best, or a team that kind of lets the snowball swallow them up and then you go away for a while. It feels like that's what this game is tonight, because now it's a 5-game losing streak. This could become a 6-game losing streak, which I don't know what the exact number is of where you start to lose morale of a clubhouse, but it feels like when you get above 5 is when you start to get concerned and the red lights are starting to blink, or you find a way to stop it and you pull yourself back into this series. Because if you can win the series, then none of what the losing prior matters. You found a way to get back right in the ship, and you start to pull off a little bit from here. This feels like a pretty make-or-break type of game, which I know it's such a cliche thing to say for a team like the Cardinals, because every game feels like it's make or break for a team that's just floating around above 500, below 500. But look, the way that they've been playing, it's an exhausting way to play. When you got to play come from behind baseball, we talked about it early in the season, your offense can't go out there and score 9 runs every single night if your pitching's going to do that. So you're going to have to find an ugly way to win in this one to right the ship. Otherwise, man, this might go into a 7, 8, 9-game losing streak.
That's the concern. And right now, you've got a tough series in Milwaukee. T-Bone, you mentioned it on the Redbird Report yesterday. This is where nightmares are made. On a tough stretch, going up to Milwaukee, Cardinals have had some issues up there in the past. Sometimes when these games get away in Milwaukee, they really get away from you. The Cardinals are around 500 over the last 4 seasons in Milwaukee. It feels like it's been worse than that, and it's because you remember those games. And it's those innings like what happened last night for Sonny, where you just feel like you can do nothing. You have no way out, and you have to hit the eject button, and then somebody else comes in, and maybe they're able to get you through. But those games happen too often in Milwaukee. The Cardinals have to get things back on track tonight against Peralta. That game will be Coming up at 7:10, it's a late start against the Brewers. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're watching an all-time hockey series right now with two teams that might be at the peak of their powers, and it looks like it could be an all-timer in terms of going 7 games as well. We'll give you our thoughts on the game last night coming up in 15 minutes. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Questions and answers, Ask us anything. Friday
totally
edition.
Different game.
But
At 11:45. But next,
you new here?
the Brewers keep developing these starters. Why can't the Cardinals have one of those guys? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, why can't we have one of those? Just one of them. This Jacob Mizorowski that was on the mound yesterday, he's 6'7", he's 200 pounds, he throws 103, he gets deep into games. Why can't the Cardinals have one of those guys, Alex? I look over at the other side, and you think about the pitchers that the Brewers have been able to develop in recent years, whether it be Peralta, who's still there, Burns, who was amazing, Woodruff, who was outstanding. Now they've got this cat. They've got another one coming through their minor league system right now as well. They always seem to have this pipeline of young, stud starting pitchers. And listen, man, the Cardinals have had some of those in their history. Like, you look back, and whether it be like Jaime Garcia, Carlos Martinez, Michael Wacha, Jack Flaherty, it was supposed to be Luke Weaver and Alex Reyes as well. Sandy Alcantara was supposed to be one here. Zach Gallen maybe could have become one here, but ultimately, the
had to
trade.
get Ozuna.
Yeah.
Had to get him.
I still defend the trade. It obviously worked out about as poorly as any trade could. They haven't really had one, though, in 7 years? Since Jack, basically? Was the last time they developed a guy that had anything resembling what we saw last night for the Brewers? Alex, that's what they're missing. And the hope is maybe Quinn Matthews becomes like some version of this, a mid to front end of the rotation starter. Maybe TK Roby can become one of those guys. Maybe Jerpy, when healthy, can be something like that. But, man, you look at the difference between the success that the Brewers have been able to maintain and what the Cardinals have lacked. The Brewers develop starters that can be at the front end of a contending rotation, and the Cardinals have failed to do so.
And they don't just develop one of them and then go quiet for years. They just continue to churn them out. Like, whether you move on from Burns or Woodruff gets hurt, and then you go out and you find this guy, it's just a pipeline that just continues to produce that top-end talent. It's so hard because, if you're like me and you love pain, you go back and you look at drafts and you look at guys that were drafted prior to these dudes that look like they're going to be studs. And you say, cool, so this team just sucks at evaluating talent of why they missed that player. But, man, baseball it kind of feels like you're playing craps most of the time, right? You're throwing dice and you just hope you get a good roll out of it. And sometimes it is that. Now there are times that organizations just don't evaluate somebody, or, as T-Bone has liked to point out, take massive risks on certain guys in the draft that have high-end stuff, but you just don't know what all of the other elements are. That's stuff that I don't know what the front office, what the drafting staff looks at, and what they prioritize. But it gets frustrating when you see that, whether it's the big-time bat in the middle of the lineup that gets drafted in the third or the fourth round, or if it's an ace-type pitcher like this that you see come up and you're like, this dude was drafted 15 picks after two guys that the Cardinals drafted. What did they miss? But, man, baseball is just so different than the NFL or NBA or even the NHL, where you can see stats in juniors and say, well, that's going to translate to the NHL, and typically it doesn't in baseball.
Yeah, I think when you look at what the Brewers do when they are drafting and developing, it looks like they seem to target like stuff, right? They just say, we'll draft a guy that's got this great stuff, and you look at their pitcher from yesterday and you go, man, that guy's stuff is filthy. And then we can fine tune it and we can hopefully see if it works, right? It's a big swing. Like, they took him in the second round. They gave him a pretty good signing bonus, better than anybody else in that round. And part of that, too, the equation is maybe he doesn't end up signing with us and he goes to the college route because he was coming from a JUCO school. But when I think of, like, the Cardinals drafting, and I'm not even saying, like, it's been a bad philosophy, and they've kind of started to get away from this, but it always feels like it's kind of more of the safer plays, right? It's we think this guy will be a big leaguer. Well, what's his ceiling? Well, he's a big leaguer. Okay, but is he, like, a guy that could be, like, the front end of a rotation, right? They've started to kind of go this route. Like, Jordan Walker was a big swing on the position player side when they drafted him in 2020. Pure bat, offensive power, but he was in high school, right? You never know how that's going to translate. That feels like the spot where it's been missing for the Cardinals. Like, we were going through this in the office. Like, who's the best, like, stuff arm they've drafted recently? And, like, Jerpy maybe.
I've got a list for you. You want to go through these?
Let's do it.
I've got every top 75 pitching pick that the Cardinals have selected since 2015.
Oh, Michael McGreevy's shoved. He'll be good.
2022, let's start there because these are guys that are, like, at least approaching the big leagues, or at least you would hope so. 2022, Cooper Jerpy, Bryson Motts. Bryson Motts is a guy that they really like, but it doesn't look like that guy.
And Cooper Jerpy can't stay healthy.
Correct.
So.
And he had stuff.
He was a big deal.
Jerpy's an interesting one because T-Bone and I will just disagree on this. I think Jerpy was a stuff pick. He's not high velo the way that you saw it last night, but you don't have to be high velo to have great stuff in Major League Baseball. Yeah. You can win in different ways nowadays. Like, you look at the Red Sox staff from a year ago. It was, we don't throw fastballs. we just have this crazy secondary stuff. We're going to throw it as our primary pitch, and that's going to be the way that we win. That was kind of Cooper Jerpy. He had the slider from hell, sidearm angle. That can work. Yeah. It's just not traditionally what you think of when you think of stuff. All right, that was a side tangent. But 2021, Michael McGreevy, the opposite of a stuff pick.
Yeah.
He can be a good pitcher, but that's not a guy that wins with stuff. He's pitchability. 2020 was Tink. That's a stuff pick.
It's a stuff pick. And he was out of high school like that. I think he was out of high school. Correct. So that was a risk pick.
2019, Zach Thompson. Not stuff. 2018, Griffin Roberts. 2017, they didn't have a top 75 pick because of the scandal. 2016, Dakota Hudson.
Definitely stuff.
Connor Jones. I have no recollection of Connor Jones. 2015, Jake Woodford. I mean, come on.
Definitely stuff.
2014, Luke Weaver. No. Jack Flaherty, stuff. Ronnie Williams. Anybody remember Ronnie Williams?
I don't think Ronnie Williams was real.
And Andrew Morales.
That one sounds even faker.
That's every Cardinals top 75 selection that was a pitcher since 2014. So that's a decade stretch. They're aiming high now for position players, and it's smart. I think they should continue to do that. You have to aim high, and don't be afraid to strike out on some of these guys. Sometimes you end up with a guy that's, I don't remember Andrew Morales, but you end up with an Andrew Morales.
Ronnie Williams had some really good stuff in high school.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
8-2 with a .97 ERA as a senior.
Every prospect ever.
Yeah. And it was a second-round pick.
Sometimes you end up with Tink Hintz, right? Who maybe he's going to max out as a closer. Sometimes you end up with Cooper Jerpy, who we can have our disagreements, T-Bone, on whether or not he was a stuff pitcher, but sometimes those guys blow out their arms because they have so much stuff, their body just can't handle it. And sometimes you end up with what the Brewers have had. And you have dudes that are throwing 103 coming out of your rotation, 6'7", ridiculous extension. There was a guy that did a video last night comparing Mizorowski's stuff, his fastball, compared to every other pitcher in Major League Baseball that we've seen this year. He already has the best stuff of a fastball of any pitcher in Major League Baseball right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Number 1 ranked, and it's like by a significant margin. That's what the Cardinals need to attack more of. They have not done it enough. They're lacking it in their rotation right now, and you're seeing the results. There is a difference between what you saw last night on the Brewers side of things and every Cardinal starting pitcher not named Sonny Gray. And even Sonny Gray is a little different, but at least I'll put him in the category of he's got stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody else in this rotation does right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Look, they made the smart decision when they brought in Gray because he had the stuff, but now he's getting up there in age to where his stuff is starting to diminish, and you can kind of see that a little bit. They are missing those guys. And I think what I feel like gets a little lost in that equation too is if you draft a stuff guy and you kind of learn early on like, whoa, man, I don't know if we can make this work. Those guys carry value across baseball because a lot of organizations will say, we'll try and see if we can make it work. They carry more value on that than a guy that is kind of the, well, yeah, his stuff's not great. He's more pitchability, like a 4-5. Baseball loves the guys that have stuff, right? You mentioned this about bullpen arms the other day when we were talking about them. Teams really value the stuff because they think they can work on the command. And the one thing that will definitely always work is stuff. You can always miss bats with stuff. It's a lot harder to try and fix guys that don't have that, as you're seeing with the St. Louis Cardinals right now. That's why you have to take these big swings early in the draft.
Go back to the question that we asked at the beginning of this segment. Why can't the Cardinals find guys like this? Maybe there needs to be a change of philosophy from that side of it, where you're drafting the sure thing, the pitchability. You know these guys are going to hit the strike zone for you. They've got great command. Maybe you need to start taking swings on pitchers. I mean, they've taken swings on position players in the past. Delvin Perez, which did not work out, but they took a swing on that. J.J. Weatherholt seems like one of those guys that there was a lot of upside, but there was
Walker
uncertainty.
Was that. Gorman was that. They have taken swings on the position player side of things. I want to give them credit for it. I think it was worthwhile. Some of them have not worked out, but it was worth
But you
the
take your
shot.
chance.
Right? You need the upside. The Cardinals have lacked upside in the last decade. They're trying for that now on this on the position player side. I think the philosophy, I agree, Alex, does need to change on the pitching side of things.
That's how you that's how you find those gems in the second or third round. You're willing to take risks, and for the longest time it does feel like the Cardinals, especially at the top end of the draft, the first or the competitive round picks, the second round, they go for certainty, and it typically doesn't work out for them.
I will say this on the pitchability and guys not really having a whole lot of value, not holding their value when they're that type. Aaron Savali is exactly that pitcher. Aaron Savali was a mid-4s ERA for all of his career in Tampa, in Cleveland, eventually in Milwaukee. He was just traded yesterday. What did they get in return? A whole bunch of nothing. A former top prospect in Andrew Vaughn, who's a first base DH type, hits from the right side, had a little bit of power early on. In other words, right-handed Nolan Gorman. That is what the Brewers just got yesterday for Aaron Savali, who last year in 31 starts had a 4.3 ERA through 160 innings. There's value in having that guy in your rotation, and Major League Baseball was like, not a lot though. So I think that's the problem with the way that the Cardinals operate is they aim for that to be the upside. They want Aaron Savali's. They want 5 of them. And the more the merrier in this rotation, and the rest of Major League Baseball is like, he's fine. He's a dime a dozen, though. We can find that guy in free agency for $10 million. We'd rather develop guys that would cost us 30 or develop none of them. But if we got one of those guys and he's a $30 million pitcher, dude, that is worth 5 Aaron Savali's. So that's the difference between the rest of Major League Baseball and where the Cardinals have been at. I think some of this is changing. I think the philosophy internally, talking to people within the organization, I think that's changing. It just takes a long time to turn a cruise ship around, and that's what the Cardinals are. They're an aircraft carrier, and it's taking a while for them to turn this thing from one direction to another.
Just miss the iceberg when you turn it around,
Well,
Yeah.
Don't run into that.
Hopefully there isn't one. I think that was the 2023 season. Coming up in about 15 minutes, ask us
That ship
anything.
sunk.
If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, we'll get into those coming up here in just a little bit. But we are witnessing an all-time hockey series. We're going to break it down next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals fell to the Brewers last night 6-0. Game 2 of their 4-game set in Milwaukee is tonight. 7:10 will be first pitch. Eric Fedde will be on the mound for St. Louis. Freddie Peralta will get the start for Milwaukee. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. CMLondoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We are watching an all-time Stanley Cup final right now. Oilers win last night after a crazy comeback. They were down 3-0 in the first period. I texted Alex and T-Bone and said, oh boy, well, my prediction of the Oilers winning this series sure looks stupid right now. They pull their goalie, they come back, end up tied at 3 going into the third. And then they pull ahead. The Florida Panthers equalize it late, and then boom, the Panthers able to win in overtime 5-4 against the Panthers last night. Alex, this is an all-timer. You've got two teams that are at the peak of their powers right now, and we talked about this with Florida. You look up and down the roster, dude, everybody is in that like 27 to 31-year-old age range. And that's when you are at your absolute peak as a player. That's the prime of your career. You look over at Edmonton, and right now, Leon Draisaitl, guess what age he is? 29 years old. Connor McDavid, 28 years old. Those guys, this is their prime. The next 2 or 3 years, this is when we will see the best version of Draisaitl versus McDavid. As a fan of the sport, I just enjoy when we get these opportunities to see teams like this, because it doesn't happen often, where you see it all come together, cap-wise, health-wise, age-wise. A lot of the time you'll see like it's almost two boats that are passing in the night, and this is the opposite of that. You're seeing them going head-to-head in battles in back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. We never got to see it, for example, with like Mahomes versus Brady. Never got that chance. We saw it for a little while with Manning versus Brady in the AFC, but you never got a Super Bowl there. It's always the AFC versus the AFC. So it's been really cool, and it reminds me a lot of like the Cleveland Cavaliers at their peak with LeBron. When it was LeBron, you had Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. They were one of the best offenses that we've seen in recent memory, and they were going up against the Warriors. That was special. That was a really special time for the NBA. We're seeing exactly that right now. This is the NHL's version of that right now with the Panthers versus the Oilers.
Yeah, and the difference is, like in the NHL, we've seen this, but you see it in the conference final. Like we saw this when Crosby and Ovechkin were in their prime and they were going head-to-head. Saw it when the Kings and Blackhawks were at their best, and you saw Jonathan Quick versus Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. You typically don't get this in the Stanley Cup final. Like, you've gotten some really good matchups in the past, whether it's been Tampa in it or we've seen Vegas when they were at their best, but it's always felt like a one-off. You never really have seen that team back after back after back. And the part about this is sometimes you have to sit back and just look at what's taken place in this series and be like, damn, we might be talking about this 10, 15 years from now. Like last night, for example, you saw a team blow a 3-goal lead in the second period. That was the Panthers. A goalie get pulled, and the goaltender that came in relief pulled the team back in. And in this series, we've seen 2 of the latest game-tying goals in Stanley Cup final history. And they were in the same series with 2 different teams. That the team that scored that goal to tie it lost. So we are witnessing some greatness right now in these Stanley Cup finals. And what I find so crazy about this is this doesn't feel like it could stop at 3 times with the Florida Panthers being here or 2 times with the Edmonton Oilers being here. I've said it before, like Florida, although things will change this offseason if Ekblad goes or if Bennett goes and what it looks like for a couple of their other moves. Brad Marchand seems like he's going to be getting bank on the free agent market.
He's about to go to Columbus.
So I saw Friedman report on 32 Thoughts saying like he is saying he will take whatever the highest bidder is willing to play and does not care where he's going.
Congratulations, future Utah Hockey Club forward, Brad Marchand.
Or congratulations, future Chicago Blackhawk, Brad Marchand.
That'd be great.
Poor Marchand.
Exactly. No, poor Bedard. You get to go play with that one. But here's like, I don't see anybody unseating the Florida Panthers in the Eastern Conference because nobody, regardless if they make changes to certain areas, nobody's going to match what the top 5 forwards look like on that team. The Edmonton Oilers, as much as things will change because Corey Perry is 40 years old, who knows if you get the best out of certain guys on this roster, and they've got a goaltending problem. Still got McDavid and Draisaitl.
I agree with you. I'm not sure that either team will ever be better than they are right now, though. And the reason that I mention that is because of Brad Marchand. It's because of the health, honestly. That's a big component of when you're able to have your success. You just never know, right? The Celtics were supposed to, this is an NBA comparison, but just bear with me. The Celtics were supposed to go on this long extended run. And then Jason Tatum pops his Achilles, it's over.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to trade one of their stars this offseason, and then who knows if or when they get back to what they were a year ago. The Giannis Antetokounmpo Bucks, this was supposed to be like a 5 to 10 year stretch. They end up trading for Damian Lillard, and it's over. It's over. They might trade him this offseason already. The Brooklyn Nets never had the success, but they were supposed to become this super team. It just never worked out. So I don't know if we'll ever see something like this. This is like Kevin Durant with the Warriors, where it all comes together on this super team. And people are annoyed when it happens, don't get me wrong, but it was like the highest level of basketball that we've seen in 20 years. And it was unbelievable to watch that at the highest level. That's what these two teams are right now. They are at the peak of their absolute powers. I did want to ask you one thing real quick, Alex. How does this for you, because I'll be just totally candid, I wasn't a hockey fan at the time. How does this compare to you to like that Penguins versus Red Wings series? Because we got that in back-to-back years as well.
Yeah.
That was Sid at the beginning.
They're very comparable. I think I would give the slight edge to the Penguins and the Red Wings because the Penguins...
Really?
Yeah, the Penguins kind of had what McDavid and Draisaitl is in Crosby and Malkin, but the Penguins also had Marc-Andre Fleury, who was a human highlight reel. And they were going up against arguably one of the best rosters top to bottom that I've ever seen put together. Like, the Florida Panthers have an incredible roster, but those Detroit Red Wings teams had, like, Marian Hossa playing on the third line for them. They had Nick Lidstrom, and they had Brian, like, they had, like, 7 or 8 Hall of Famers on that roster, where I don't know how many Hall of Famers you can pick out for the Florida Panthers right now. So
Barkov, Kachuk, for sure.
Bobrovsky.
Probably Bobrovsky.
That would probably be about it. Maybe Ekblad. It just depends on what the rest of the career looks like, and I don't really know. Yeah. But, like, that one had Datsuk.
Verhaeghe?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That one had Datsuk. It had Zetterberg. It had Hossa. It had Lidstrom. It had Rafalski. It had Osgood. Like, it had so many guys on that roster from top to bottom that it was like, damn, I don't know who can stop either of these teams. So it's very comparable, but I think I would give the slight edge to the Penguins and the Red Wings.
One potential difference, many of those players that you just mentioned were like at the back end of their career.
And I think that's what made it so fascinating to me was like, how are these dudes still doing it? Like, Lidstrom was still putting up 60-something points at 38 years old. So maybe that's why it was a little bit more fascinating to me.
Put up 70 points that year.
Yeah.
10 goals, 60 assists as a 37-year-old defenseman.
Dude, I mean, he was absurd because it wasn't just how good he was offensively. He was the king of, like, a puck would go to the middle of the ice, and before the other team could move it, he would swat it away and go down the other end. But
that's amazing.
Like, Pittsburgh is very Edmonton-y to me, because, like, Red Wings won at that first round with the Penguins, and it's like, oh man, this is ever going to get his. But it had Crosby, it had Malkin, because at the time, Crosby and Malkin were McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, I mean, they were putting up 100 points that season.
Best players you'd ever seen.
Third best player on the team points-wise was Jordan Staal with 50.
Yeah, and they had Chris Letang, too, who's very Evan Bouchard-y. But again, the difference was they had a human highlight reel in Marc-Andre Fleury, where Stuart Skinner's a human, not top 10 Sports Center updates.
I mean, you called it on that side, by the way. Yeah. You said, hey, when he's good, he's going to be great, and when he's bad, he'll get pulled in the first period. And that's what we've seen so far in this series. When he's been at his best, he's been really good for them. And when he's been bad, oh boy, they have no chance to overcome the lack of success that they're getting in net right now.
He is the exception to having a bad goaltender and still having a great team. Because guess what? When you give up 3 goals and the guy gets pulled, Dallas Stars tried to come back when Pete DeBoer pulled their goalie, but wasn't successful. But McDavid and Draisaitl are able to rally the troops enough to kind of offset that bad goaltending. But that's why this is going 7 games, no matter what. It's just a matter of who gets the big save in the 7th game of third period or overtime, and I give the edge to Florida.
I got to give a lot of credit to this Oilers team, man.
Oh, God, yeah.
Finding a way to come back in that game. It's different because the game that I'm about to mention was later in the series, but man, it reminded me a little bit of like when the Cubs came back in that rain delay game where Jason Hayward gives the speech. Apparently last night in the locker room, Corey Perry was the one after the first period that gave the speech to the team, and they got him going. They came back in that second period. Like it felt like a potential turning point in this series, but we've had that before in this series, man. We saw it last year, first 3 games, Florida wins, and then Oilers are able to come back, force Game 7. These teams are just so evenly matched, and they're so different in the way that they're constructed, it has become as good of a series as you could possibly ask for. There's only one game that didn't go to overtime.
Yeah. And I got a feeling there's going to be more games in this series that go to overtime because these teams are just so...
Whoever loses is going to be exhausted.
Yeah, they don't.
This.
And that's why you don't see this sustained much longer because the Florida Panthers, it's going to be very crazy to see if they can make it to 4 straight Stanley Cup finals. Edmonton, 3 straight for how exhausted. I also should say that this series should teach you that age is not is just a number. Corey Perry, who is 40 years old, has 18 points in 21 games. And I'm sorry, that's Brad Marchand, who's 38 years old. Corey Perry, who is 40, has 13 points and 9 goals in 20 games.
Some guys just... They're the outliers.
Yeah.
Marchand is an outlier. Corey Perry is an outlier.
Ryan Suter, an outlier. Brent Burns, outlier.
Yeah. So some guys can just sustain that level of play. And the other thing is some guys are just playoff performers.
Yeah.
Brad Marchand is a playoff performer. He is better now than he is during the regular season. Corey Perry, his game translates more to this time of the year than it does the 82-game regular season. I think we saw with Jake Neighbors.
Yeah.
He might just be one of these players that, he's good. He's a good player during the regular season. But this time of the year, that is the profile that has success, and it goes back to our conversation yesterday. I don't want to rehash it, but if you want to check the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
You can hear our conversation about Jordan Kyrou. Coming up next, ask us anything, sports or otherwise, here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service X line. We'll answer them here on BK and Ferrario. From the 573, guys, what's your go-to gas station snack when you stop on a road trip? I'm a trail mix guy. Come to that in my later
I try not
stages of
to.
life.
I try not to do that now because I don't need to be stopping at 7 different pit stops to go to the bathroom with that good old IBS. But in my heyday, college day area, I would do a Dorito nacho bag. You ever done one of these?
Dorito.
Get a bag of nacho cheese Doritos, and then they got like the nacho station there. You get some like onions, some jalapenos and cheese, and then the nacho cheese you just dip
You
it
would
in
eat
there.
that while you're like driving?
Yeah,
That's
well, you
insane.
put it in the bag, and you got just a fork.
We had those when we went to Mexico City. That was one of the offerings for street food. Is they would just like make you a
Bag nachos.
Nachos.
Yeah, it was easy to eat because you crumble up the chips into crumbs, and then you got all the toppings, and then you just mix it around and get a spoon while you're doing it.
I mean, it doesn't sound bad. It feels like it's a lot of work while you're
It's worse.
driving. but
It's bad because you have to stop 7 times to go to the bathroom.
mine would be like jerky. Like if I'm going on a long
I
trip.
hate jerky.
Really?
Never liked jerky.
I love beef jerky.
Never.
Oh yeah, that
Never.
would be that's my go-to like snack.
I will tell you this: if you get into the car with me, and
Kate
we're
would like trail mix.
oh come on, if you get into the car with me and we're on a road trip, and you bring combos into the car, I will throw them out of the window.
Oh, I'm cool.
Those
with
are
that.
the most foul-smelling things I
Yeah.
have ever experienced. In
I
my
don't
life.
like
those combos are.
Yeah, I don't like
gross, dude.
I
stuffed
agree.
crackers. It's kind of nasty.
I agree. I also hate now this one. I think you guys like, if I remember, when we would do like family vacations and we had to drive freaking everywhere. Licorice was the number one thing. I hate licorice.
Oh, see,
That's
I'm
just disgusting.
weird.
Oh,
What about like
gross.
Twizzlers? Are you out
No,
on
I
I
Twizzlers?
don't like
Disgusting.
Twizzlers. I like the ones that you peel the rope off. Those are the better ones.
Yeah, I'm fine with either of those.
Flavored peanuts are good too. You get some Cajun seasoning or some
yeah.
chili lime seasoning on it. Those are
regular
great.
originals. I'm boring.
God, you are boring.
Yeah, I know.
You're the guy that wants trail mix, but wants them to pick the M&Ms out because they're unhealthy.
They add a little bit of a zest to it. All right.
Here, I want a trail mix. Will you pick the M&Ms out? I'm not eating those.
I just want the peanuts.
From the manager, Lou Brown. Guys, with the Cardinals' current trend, are we more likely now to see them wind up with 70 to 80 wins that some predicted? I think right now, with the way they're trending, they look like a 85-ish win team. 80 to 85.
I think 85. It's probably my number now.
My hope is they can pick this back up, get back to the team that they were, incentivize the organization to buy at the deadline, and then maybe that version of the Cardinals gets back to a 90-win approach. But right now, this current version of the Cardinals, they look like 80 to 85.
Yeah. I floated around like below 85, above 85. It feels like right around 85 is what we're going to see.
Yeah, I thought they originally were like 87 to 90. Now I'm like 82 to 85. And I think what makes it tough is with what their holes are, I don't know if they can do enough to get to that 90 win threshold with a trade deadline. And I think that's what might tilt them towards leaning towards sell mode.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line from the 618. Guys, at this point, what would you put the panic meter on for the Cardinals? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would be your level of panic right now?
4.
I'm a little higher. I'm at like a 6.
I'll say 7. And mine comes down to, not that I think like they're going to fall apart, but like what we've said all along of like they're playing till July 31st and then their season could be over like that with a couple of trades. Man, they are playing bad baseball at the wrong time, and everybody else that's ahead of them is not playing bad baseball.
I just think you're starting to see the impact of a guy like Brendan Donovan, and really you could throw Nootbaar into this for how he's going through it. And the question is, do you think they come back injury-wise for Donovan, which we do, / Nootbaar figure it out?
I don't think that's yes, you're seeing the lackluster of the offense when those guys aren't playing at that level. Donovan out, Nootbaar injured. They would win these games with those guys. Their pitching's not been good enough to get them
but
through
Gorman's
that.
not taking that at-bat in the 7th inning last night if you have that lineup that you typically do, and I think you put up more runs early on in that game to not make it so far out of reach.
Maybe. I think it's just everything is going in the wrong direction right now. The offense is scuffling a little bit with some key guys. A lot of the offense is still playing well, by the way. Yesterday was really the first time that they have looked that bad, and some of that is the pitching that you went up against as well. But Nootbaar's going through it. You're seeing some stuff from Victor Scott right now that is not super encouraging. and Donovan's out, and you're lacking the right-handed bench bat currently because they just refuse to bring up one of Luken Baker or Thomas Saggese, and you add all of that up, it limits you offensively. Your starting pitching has been really, really bad over the last couple of weeks. There's just a lot of stuff that you look at and you're like, what's this going to lead to? All right, from the 618, who do you guys think will be in the Cardinals rotation next year? I think Sonny will be there.
McGreevy, Palante, Liberatore.
And then
Can I throw out a wild
Matthews?
card? Oh, he could be. One of Matthews, or I would throw out a wild card in here and Leahy, but he's kind of scuffling that they may not do that.
Yeah,
but he's got the pitch mixed where I think they could try it.
I think you're talking about one spot, and the question is Matthews ready?
I also think you could be talking about Palante's spot. I wouldn't write that in pen just yet. I think this year is to find out if he's going to be that player or not.
I also wouldn't mind, because like Matthews, he's still early on in developing at AAA. If maybe they sign another veteran arm. 1 year, $10 million guy comes in, and then you just give more time. Kind of what they're doing with McGreevy this year, where it's, hey, he is ready, but let's really play this slow with this left-handed arm that we really like.
From the 314, final question here. Guys, it seems to me like you hop on and off week by week. Teams go on runs with wins and losses. This team is average. No run is going to change that. I feel like for the most part, I can only speak for myself. I've been kind of in basically since they went on that first run. And I'm not, to be clear here, maybe I should state this every time that we talk on the radio, but I'm not out on the Cardinals this year. I'm not. I just think right now we're seeing that moment where things are going to go in one direction or the other. And I don't know which way it's going to go. It's the first time I've leaked confidence since they started that stretch of games with the doubleheader against the Mets. And that was, 6 weeks ago now. In the last 6 weeks, I've been pretty consistent. I think this is a potential playoff team. They just have to continue to play the way they were. And now they're not. So right now, we're about to find out what they're made of. I think the ceiling for this team is relatively limited. They have shown an ability to beat good teams in this regular season. So if they get there, maybe they can beat those teams. But I don't think they can win like 95 games. This team's not, in my opinion, capable of that. Just a matter of getting to July 31st, still being in it, right there with the playoff race, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get there or not, but that's what we're about to find out.
Yeah, I never was in on this team being more than a 90-win team. I was in on this team being a 90-win team when I saw the offense as great as it was, this is the first time all season that I felt like the offense has really started to fall off, and the pitching is maintained. And I can question the pitching all I want, but for how long they pitched well, that was beyond the length of time of thinking like, okay, this ship is going to right itself. That's typically about a month into the season. I mean, we were 2.5 months in before it turned to what it is right now.
Yeah, I feel like I've been consistent to where I think they're a playoff caliber team. Now that is starting to wane a little bit, but that's not because I don't think they're a good team. I think they're a good team. I've said this all along. I think they're a good team, not a great team. I think the problem is it might require you to be a great team just to get to the playoffs this year in this National League.
That's a big part of it, man. If you were in the American League, we'd probably be talking about the Cardinals a little differently right now.
Yeah.
Because they would be, let's see here. Right now, you're 36-33. As of today, you would be a half game back of the wild card.
Yeah.
You're right there. And the teams that are ahead of you are 36-32, 36-32.
Yeah.
So the second place team in the wild card right now is a half game ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals. That's much different than being fifth in the wild card standings, with the third place team being 3 games ahead of you. It's just different requirements to get in this year depending on which league you're in. I also view the Rays and the Twins as just lesser teams than the Phillies, the Padres, etc.
100%.
So the threshold to get in is much, much, much higher this year in the National League. And the Giants have just been better than I expected them to be. They're a surprise. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, don't look now, but things are starting to get away from the Cardinals. And are they going to send Granillo right back down to the minor leagues? God, I hope that's not the case. We'll talk about that in 15 minutes. Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We're watching an all-time great Stanley Cup final right now, and we get to break it down with an all-time great Mike McKenna. He joins us each Friday here on BK and Ferrario. Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. Hope you're ready for what should be a really fun Father's Day weekend, and I hope you've enjoyed this Stanley Cup final. What'd you take away from last night's win from the Edmonton Oilers?
I thought they were dead in the water. That's what I thought. I thought it was all over.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Bring out the cup next game. This is it. And lo and behold, here they come. It's such an Edmonton Oilers thing for them to seem like they're completely down and out, and then all of a sudden, here they come again. And that's the explosive power of that club. Now, you guys know how I feel about pulling goalies, though. Oh. And we've gone over that. Right? Have we not?
Yes,
Many a time. Now, there's a distinct difference to what's happened with Edmonton and their goaltending situation, and that's Calvin Pickard. This guy's 6-0 in the playoffs. Okay? This is a guy who played a lot of hockey this year for Edmonton, who's rejuvenated a career, who's done a great job for them. They've really had more of a tandem with him and Skinner. It's a lot different scenario than what we saw in Dallas with Jake Ottinger and Casey DeSmith, a clear-cut 1-2. So, in my eyes, what we saw is, okay, well, for whatever reason, Skinner's coming out, we're going to toss picks in there and see what happens, right? What can you lose? I had no problem with that goalie pull at all. 3-0 after the first, you're down that quickly, your team's dead in the water. It made sense for them to do it. And I tell you what, he was good. I really had fun watching Pickard come off the bench. But I think it's the value of having somebody his age and his experience that he can handle that moment. He has experienced a lot in his career, and I thought he looked good.
It's wild that a goalie is 7-0 in the playoffs after last night, 6-0 prior to last night, and in all but 2 of those games that he's played in the playoffs, Mike, he's had below a 900 save percentage. But that's what you get when you put a guy in relief in the playoffs.
It's also what you get when you play for the Oilers. I mean, that's a pretty loose team. I know that McDavid's come after the press and said, hey, we can defend. And, yeah, at times, Connor, if you guys can, you are capable of it. You just haven't done it consistently all year. That's why they're so Jekyll and Hyde at times. But I just think that, again, a goalie like Pickard really isn't going to be frazzled. And the biggest thing is you just don't want to allow goals back-to-back if you can avoid it. Goals are going to go in, but man, you need that next save. And, last night he didn't even have to worry about it because he just shut the door. But I think he's handled it. The fun fact on Pickard is 2017 Calder Cup Finals. I'm playing with the Texas Stars. 2018, I take it back. Pickard's a backup goalie in the American League for the Toronto Marlies when they win that. And this is a guy who was he played a full season for Colorado and played well for them. He gets picked up in the expansion draft by Vegas. And then Vegas, for absolutely no reason, lets him go and chooses Malcolm Subban over him. I don't understand that. And he had to rejuvenate his career to get to this stage. It's an awesome story. Happy for the guy.
We're talking to Mike McKenna here on 101 ESPN. Mike, earlier today we were talking about this series and just seeing these two teams at the peak of their powers with players that are superstars in their prime. And you look at Draisaitl and McDavid, they're 28, 29 years old. This is when they're in the prime of their respective careers. They're also healthy, and you're seeing the same thing over with the Panthers, who added and really pushed this year at the deadline to try to cash in on this window that they're in. And you look at it, this is really the best 2 to 3 year stretch that we've seen from two teams that are meeting in the finals since those series that we saw between the Red Wings and the Penguins. When you look at this compared to that stretch, which one do you think was better? Which series did you enjoy more? Or Oilers versus Panthers or Red Wings versus Penguins?
Oh, come on now. We're talking about my childhood here. So, I think the nostalgia of Red Wings Penguins is going to always stand out to me. But it's really not that this hasn't been a great series. It has. Absolutely. It's had all the drama. It's had the ups and downs, the things to keep you engaged with it. But I look back at that one in my youth, and it just set the table for what sports can do for you. And that's always going to be a big draw for me. I do think in today's world it is unique to see, and it's also fun to kind of see the path of Florida lose in the finals, come back and win. Pittsburgh Penguins, they lose in the finals, come back and win. Tampa Bay, remember all those deep playoff runs that Ben Bishop had in net for the Tampa Bay Lightning? They had to They had to learn to lose before they could win, and you see that with these teams. And I don't know, it just even the old Oilers in the 80s, they lost to the Islanders and came back and won the 4 straight cups. So I see a lot of parallels there. I don't see a roster in Edmonton that I think is always going to be completely dominant or engaged, but you can never count them out, and that's what we're seeing.
As a follow-up on that, you mentioned those series showed you what sports can do. I think in 2019, when the Blues won the Cup, we saw this spike in hockey interest here in St. Louis, right, on a youth level. Mm-hmm. Could we see something similar from this kind of a stretch where you see Matthew Tkachuk in the Stanley Cup final back-to-back seasons? He's a guy that played here. He grew up here in St. Louis. You see Trent Frederick on the other side. So now you've seen a stretch really where St. Louis, whether it is the Blues or just a person from St. Louis, you had the stretch with Pat Maroon as well, is represented in these Cups. Is that something that can continue to increase the hockey participation at a youth level in a city like St. Louis?
Definitely. And I love this question because I think it's so true. But to me, it's not even a question. You could have phrased that as a statement. It is. It is driving St. Louis. I mean, what hat is Keith Tkachuk wearing last night on air, guys? What hat did he have on? Obie Clark's. Okay. Oh, he's wearing an Obie Clark's hat, right? This isn't a paid advertisement for Obie Clark's. We love Obie Clark's. He was wearing an Obie Clark's hat. Everybody knows they're from St. Louis. That the Tkachuks, Brady, Matthew, they're from here. Trent Frederick now, because of this series, it's going to elevate his visibility in this town too. This stuff really matters. We get focused on our own teams like anybody else, but I do think that when youth hockey players hop on their tablet and start watching highlights on NHL.com, they're looking at all the teams because they get these highlights so quickly. And now you're seeing, oh, look what Trent did. Oh, my gosh, did you see what Matt did before they scored that goal? Like, I think the viral nature of that gives it more accessibility to it. And the more players from St. Louis that are in the league, the more reason you have to pay attention to and to watch. And they're doing it at the premier level. That's the coolest thing.
Mike, let's go a little off-season mode here. We've spent a lot of time talking about, what the Blues could do, upgrading the center position. But, now the news of Sam Bennett potentially staying in Florida directs us a different way. I know. Could have had him for 8 years at $10 million AAV. Do you think it would make any sense if the Blues see an Aaron Ekblad out there at free agency and said, you know what, let's zig while everyone's zagging and just make our defense elite?
I wouldn't mind that. The only problem is you're going to have to try to get rid of Justin Falk to do it. That's the only way I can see it. And is it possible? That's where you're going to have to see Army do his best work. Because in some way he's going to have to make some space to bring that player in for a right-handed defenseman. Is it possible? I think anything is in today's game. Honestly, as much as we've complained about no trade clauses and all the rest, we just saw Chris Kreider head out to Anaheim. And that guy, he didn't think he'd leave the Rangers. He had trade protection, all these things. People can find solutions. Now, I'm not just singling out Falk. I think he'd be the easiest one to look at to do that with, to get Ekblad. But you do win from the back end in the NHL. And I think that the Blues have probably still objectively been maybe 1 to 2 short of big-time difference makers on the blue line. I think Tyler Tucker's grown into a very good 5'6", which is great, but could probably still use another top 4 that's a little bit younger. So I don't mind that thought. I still think, though, that the second-line center role is the pressing matter for the Blues. I just think that depth at center is something that they're not going to overcome unless they either spend on it or grow from within very quickly.
Does it concern you, though, that his nickname is Sweatsy? I feel like that's something that's holding me back a little bit here.
Everybody sweats a lot, Mike.
No, I gave him that nickname, so I love it.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's actually completely wrong. I didn't do that. I made it up on the fly, but I did enjoy my time.
That was the case, but I was really thinking about asking, are you being serious right now?
But Mike has played for a lot of organizations, so it wouldn't surprise me.
You never know.
So, you know what? I'm going to give you guys a little insider here. So, hanging out in my store right now at Macadoodle's Dardine Prairie is a good friend of mine. I've got Scott Stream in the store here, and we already played hockey this morning at Kirkwood. 7 a.m. we were on the ice. Now, I'm saying this as a parallel to another person that came in the store that says, hey, you play Friday mornings with a friend of mine. He's like, it's Mike Sarah. I think he's the guy that gives everybody nicknames. And I never realized, though, that seems to be my niche within the sport. So, Rope Hintz, the ace of spades, that was me. So it's about the only one that's carried on any further, but I do take pride in that.
All right, so we need to have Mike next week on Friday give nicknames to all three of us. We'll give him a week to work on it.
Maybe more importantly, give nicknames to the Blues.
Well, we already have the nicknames for the Blues.
No, he's probably going to be a little better at it than you are.
Well, shut up, man. Shut up, man. Let's go back to the center position before BK insults me even more. Mike, two guys that I've targeted that played for a team that you used to cover, the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, yeah.
One has been in the rumor mill, and I don't know how realistic it is, but William Karlsson or Nicholas Waugh. How realistic do you think the Vegas Golden Knights would trade either of those guys, and would either of those guys make sense for the Blues?
Well, they'd be really stupid to trade William Karlsson. And it would also be another dagger into what Vegas has said to everybody that signs there, because Karlsson took an unbelievably team-friendly deal to stay in Vegas, and that would be a big backstab if they decided to trade him.
Oh, they've never done that before.
Well, we've seen visuals of that before, but I will say this, Nick Waugh, I know and appreciate. Nick Waugh played against him in the American League and the NHL, saw him win a Calder Cup in the AHL. He won an NHL Stanley Cup. Nick Waugh is a better centerman than he is winger. He is not at his best on the wing, and Vegas has used him on the wing recently. Nick Waugh is also probably a second to third line centerman. I don't think he's a second line centerman. So would it be an upgrade in your depth? Yes, but I don't think Nick Waugh is going to slot into filling that puck-moving, versatile player at center that you really need.
At this point, I'll be honest with you, Mike, I just don't know how many of those players are going to be available. In terms of like the true second line clear upgrade over Braden Shin. I mean, it feels like Tavares is probably heading back to Toronto. It certainly appears that Sam Bennett is heading back to Florida. The Avalanche were able to get the deal done with Brock Nelson. I mean, the options are dwindling that are true upgrades over Braden Shin out there.
Yeah, and the Nelson one kind of bums me out because I thought he would have been a really good fit if you could have taken him at, just a couple of years on it. Would have been nice there. But again, if that's the case, it really puts your impetus on being able to grow that position. It's got to come eventually, but I think you're 2 or 3 years away from it happening on the Blues on their own. So we'll see, guys. But I'll tell you what I'm excited about this weekend. You know what's going on across the river over there on the east side, and we're not talking about Sauget, folks.
Well, there's a lot that probably goes in there.
Oh,
race,
yeah. You've got an Indy race this weekend. What are you looking forward to there, Mike?
Hey, this is Mike's Super Bowl.
This is my Graceland. So when the season started, I did some media work with Ed Carpenter Racing, and they've been gracious enough to invite us over and have a good time as a family. So I'll be there all day tomorrow. I'll be there on Sunday for the race. It's an evening race, everybody, so it should be cool. We're hoping the rain holds off. But if you go, make sure you go to the infield, see all the cars, meet some drivers. Have a good time. We'd love to see a good show over there at Gateway.
And before you go over there, stop by at Macadoodles. Get yourself some drinks for this weekend. Mike, what can people look forward to this weekend when they stop by at Macadoodles in Garden Prairie?
Well, I'll tell you what. It is Rosé weekend, and I got to tell you. So let me kick it over here. Pat Stouffer, our wine manager, tell us about what's happening in wine over there.
Saturday is National Rosé Day, so we're going to be tasting rosé all day from 12 until 4, and even after that, our vendors will be here to talk about the wine and tell you everything.
Well, you heard it right from Kat Stouffer, our wine manager. Rosé all day. We've got Father's Day specials. We've got a raffle for some really allocated items. Blood Oath Pack 11, Heaven Hill 19, and a Parker's available with our Father's Day raffle.
Ooh, Blood Oath, one of my favorites, going to Lux Row here in a couple of weeks out there in the Louisville area. So, Mike, looking forward to that over at Macadoodles. Get yourself out there if you have not done so already. Mike, happy Father's Day to you. Enjoy this weekend. We'll talk with you again soon, my man.
Looking forward to it. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Be safe. I'll see you at the track this weekend.
Yes, sir. It's Mike McKenna. Appreciate his time as always here on BK and Ferrario. Alex, what he was talking about there of Nick Waugh not necessarily being an upgrade over Braden Shin, I think he's right. Yeah. But who's the guy? Is there any? Maybe this is the way to frame this, Alex. And we could talk about this on the other side. Is there anybody still available that you think would be an obvious upgrade over Braden Shin? We'll get your answer on that, and you've got a name that you want to throw into the mix coming up here on BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. So we were just talking on the other side with Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, now joins us each Friday here on BK and Ferrario. Always enjoy his time. If you missed our conversation, the podcast page is where that'll be available. And Alex, we were talking about the center position for the Blues. And he said, hey, if you look at some of these options that have been presented, Nick Waugh was one that you just suggested. They're not necessarily upgrades over Braden Shen. So if you're looking for a second-line center, not sure that's the direction that I would go. I agree with him. I don't think Nick Waugh is an upgrade over Braden Shen. I don't think really anybody could make that case. But I also look around, and I don't see anybody necessarily that's expected to be available this offseason that is a clear and obvious upgrade over Shen.
Yeah.
Some might be, you could make an argument one way or the other, but most are not definitive in that way. Do you see anybody that you would view right now that is available, like Sam Bennett set aside, it sounds like he's re-signing. Is there anybody that looks like a clear upgrade over Shen in your mind?
If you're going free agent market, absolutely not. There's nobody that's an upgrade over Shen. I think you could hear an argument over Matt Duchene. I think Matt Duchene has to be in the right situation to be that upgrade. But Granlund, Suter, Donato, all of these other center options, there's no way. Tavares maybe, but it sounds like he's going back to Florida. I think there are some on the trade market, but I don't know how likely it is that they're available / what you'd be willing to pay. Like we talked to Pavel Zacha. I know Pagnotta didn't yesterday. I think Zacha is an upgrade over Shen. Or at worst, he's 1-for-1 comparable with Shen. And then you put him on the line with wingers like Kyrou or Holloway, maybe he gives you more production. I think Ottawa, and I've heard conflicting reports that he's available, Shane Pinto is an upgrade over Braden Shen. And in my opinion, William Karlsson is an obvious upgrade over Braden Shen.
He's one that, I just am not convinced at all that he's available.
I've heard Friedman's report, and I get it. Part of me doesn't buy the saying he's not available because they've got Eichel, they've got Tomas Hertl, they've got Waugh, they've got another dude on their set. They've got depth down the middle. They need help on the wing. Now, maybe they use Waugh on the wing. You heard Mike say that he's not benefit there. But regardless, there are guys, but they're only available via trade, and it's going to probably cost you a pretty penny that might hurt your NHL team. So that's why the goal isn't to upgrade over Shen. The goal is to upgrade over Sundqvist and then hope Dvorsky is the upgrade over Shen in 3 years.
That's where I'm at. I'm setting my sights on that third-line center position right now. I think at the beginning of the offseason, when the Blues had first been bumped out of the playoffs, the hope was you could upgrade from Shen.
Yeah.
I don't think it's realistic. I mean, you look last year at the deadline, Alex. The Toronto Maple Leafs wanted Shen as a second-line center.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. The Toronto Maple Leafs were in an all-in season, and they were like, you know what we could do? We could get Braden Shen in here, and he could be our second-line center. Okay, if they view it that way, then why shouldn't we as Blues fans view it that way right now? There's no guarantee that it works. There's no guarantee that he has another full, healthy season where it goes the way that it did a year ago. But I do think something was unlocked with Shen's game when they put Holloway and Kyrou on that line as well. There's chemistry between the three of them, so I'm okay with that. And now you set your sights on that third-line center, and this is where we get to the player that you wanted to discuss today.
Yeah.
Jonathan Toews is out there. He is expecting to sign prior to the NHL draft, so you have to make a decision on this before you can really, officially at least, go out and talk to the free agents that are going to be available this year, before you get official word on some of the trade candidates that could be out there this year. In your mind, what are the pros and cons of going in that direction and signing a Jonathan Toews who has been out of hockey now for a few years?
Well, the cons are obvious. The cons are he hasn't played in 2 years. He had some mental / physical issues that kept him away from the game, and you don't know how rusty this is. And on top of that, his game wasn't the best in the final 2 years before he disappeared. He had 37 and 31 points, and his last year was a -31. And that's as a centerman who was playing significant minutes. But those cons, they're outweighed by the pros, in my opinion. The biggest one is it's a one-year deal. It is a one-year deal that does not hurt you. The worst thing that can happen is he's not healthy, can't play, or he's bad. And guess what? You've got the exact same roster that you did last year, which I'd be fine with if they come back with. But the also pros of this one is you've got a motivated Jonathan Toews who hasn't played in 2 years. He was on a terrible Blackhawks team those final 2 years before he disappeared, which probably went into some of the off-ice mental issues that he was dealing with. Plus, this guy has, at worst, a 15-goal scorer, 40 to 50-point producer, and at best, he's a Selke Trophy candidate. Now, I don't know what it looks like at age 37, but this is a guy that you're giving a one-year AAV league minimum to with performance bonuses, which makes him more motivated. Plus, this is an obvious upgrade over Sundqvist. Even if he's an unknown for you, this guy is a competitor, and he's been training for the last 2 years. So I think this, if you can't find the guy via trade, I would much rather give a 1-year trial deal to a Jonathan Toews and say, be our third-line center for us with the hope of getting back to what you used to be. I would rather do that than go out there and give a guy 3 or 4 years at $5.5 million that, without doubt, is a third-line center, and that's it.
My concern, and I think you did not mention one of my big downsides to this, availability. What if he's just not right? Because you're not going to know that going in. There's no way to know how he's going to respond to the rigors of playing in an 82-game schedule. His body has not done that really now since 2022. It was the last time that he played more than 55 games in a regular season was 2022. It's been a long time. And that was the only time that he's done it since the COVID season in 2020. So one time in the last 5 years has this player played more than 55 regular season games. That concerns me, especially for a team that if you go into this offseason and your stated goal is to upgrade down the middle, and this is the move that you decide to do there, are they also bringing back Faksa? I don't know. Maybe, possibly. You should have the money to be able to do so. The roster gets a little crunched there, but let's say they do that. So now you go back into next year, and everything's basically the same. There's almost zero changes in the event that Toews is not the player that you want him to be, and that's maybe not even because he's not productive. It could be because he's unavailable. You just don't know how his body's going to hold up. So that, to me, is one of the big downsides. It's the other downside is what it means an opportunity cost. If you sign Toews, it means you did not have the opportunity to explore some of these other options that are out there because you have to do it now. I will say this, Alex. I would just bet he goes to Winnipeg. He's from Winnipeg.
I bet it's Winnipeg or Colorado.
They are apparently interested in him. If Colorado wants to keep their current depth down the middle and they're interested in keeping Charlie Coyle there, well, there's not really a spot down the middle for Toews in that scenario. I think he ends up potentially going back to his hometown in Winnipeg. Does make me wonder, though, what does that mean for some of the other players that were on Winnipeg last year? Like, you look down the middle, I would think they're pretty set. But apparently they're not.
Yeah, I think that Mason Appleton, who was their third-line center or fourth-line center.
He's a UFA.
He's a UFA, and I don't think they're bringing him back. The question there is, what are they doing with Nikolai Ehlers and Gabe Vilardi? Because these are guys that have to be paid. Morgan Barron also was their fourth-line center. He's an RFA. So, like, if you get Jonathan Toews, and that's why I think Colorado actually is a destination for him, because he doesn't have to play a specific role. Like, he can slowly wade into the waters of being a center / a winger, and you can make sure he's healthy. Because what you want Jonathan Toews for is you want Jonathan Toews for the playoffs. You want Jonathan Toews to be healthy and ready to go for the playoffs because that's where he could be the difference maker. He's good in the regular season, but there's going to be a little bit of getting accustomed to it. You want him at the end of the season for the playoff run, and then when you get to the playoffs.
Yeah, it would make me nervous because the Blues are not a team that can just make the regular season. Like, they can't approach it the way that Florida did. They can't approach it the way that Edmonton did this year. They have to have their full roster available to them, man. They don't have as much margin for error. So if you bring in a guy that I don't know what to expect out of, it would make me really nervous going into this regular season.
You're taking a chance, but I could argue you're also taking a chance on giving a guy a 3 or 4 year deal for $5.5 million that he's the guy you want him to be and he doesn't live up to it, and then you're stuck with that more so than a 1 year deal. This is why, it's a tough spot to be in because you've got to identify the right guy and give him the right contract and make sure that he can live up to the expectations.
We had a few people bring up the idea of bringing Toews in on a PTO. He's going to get a real contract. So that's not going to be an option for the Blues. If you want him, you're going to have to sign him for a couple $1 million, get a few million in incentives as well, and that's the way that they can make it work.
And the incentives, by the way, go towards next year's cap.
Correct.
So if he hits his performance bonuses, and let's say he's getting $2 million in performance bonuses, that's towards your cap next year.
And that is something that I would also take into account here. Is I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
the
look, you're
following
paying
season,
you paid Suter an extra $1.5 million, I believe.
And next year is when the Blues would potentially have the big cap increases for Broberg and Holloway. You'll see what ends up happening here with Zach Bolduc as well. He'll get a pretty significant raise going into next season. So I don't know that that's necessarily something that I would want, is cap carrying over into the 2026 season for the Blues. Coming up next, don't look now, but things are starting to get away from the Cardinals a little bit. We'll talk about it here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here. They Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals fell to the Brewers last night 6-0 as they dropped game 1 of their 4-game set in Milwaukee. Game 2 will be tonight. 7:10 will be first pitch. Eric Fetty will be on the mound for St. Louis. Freddie Peralta will get the start for Milwaukee. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, things are starting to get a little dicey for the St. Louis Cardinals. It's not just the way that they have been playing, it's also the way that the rest of the National League has been playing. The Brewers have now passed you up. They're a half game ahead of the Cardinals in the standings, 37 and 33 on the season. The Cubs are 6 games ahead of the Cardinals right now. They're playing some inspired ball, and maybe most importantly, this National League wildcard race is starting to get a little annoying. The Giants are 40 and 29. Let me put this a different way. The Giants are 1 game back of the Dodgers in the National League West. The Philadelphia Phillies have won 39 games. The Padres have won 38. We all knew those teams would be very good coming into the season, but the Giants are the one that's annoying. They weren't supposed to be this good. They were supposed to be like you, but they've taken that next step. They have Robbie Ray, who's pitching at a borderline Cy Young candidacy type of level again. So now you're 5th in the wild card race, 3 games back of the Padres for that final spot. Alex, we've always known this season for the Cardinals is 2 months shorter than everybody else's. You have until July 31st to find out where you're at. You do not have as much runway. And you look at where they were at this time last year, the Cardinals had a worse record. However, they were actually in a playoff spot. And that speaks to the difference between the National League today versus the National League at this time last year. There are just more good teams this time around. And, I mean, you can make an argument. There are more great teams this time around. Some of these teams that we thought weren't going to be all that good coming into the season, too, they've taken that step. Phillies are great. Padres might be great. And maybe the Giants are just great. What does this mean for the Cardinals, in your opinion?
It means it makes it that much more difficult. Like, when we thought 90 wins would be what it takes to get into the playoffs, I think you're talking 94 to get to the playoffs, especially if none of these teams really cool off. Like right now, the Philadelphia Phillies are, 3-7 in their last 10, but they've built themselves enough equity that they can go through a spot like this and still be in a good position. And I understand the schedule eases up a little bit this month once you get past the Brewers, because then it's the White Sox, then it's the Reds, but then you've got the Cubs and Guardians. But even in the month of July, which makes this more difficult, you've got the Cubs again, you've got the Braves, you've got the Diamondbacks, you've got the Padres, all leading you up to July 31st.
Some of those teams aren't good, though. Some of those teams are all name, no game, because the Braves,
Atlanta.
Sure. The Braves can no longer be considered a threat. The Diamondbacks can no longer be considered a threat. You can only live on your name recognition for so long. The Diamondbacks are going to be a seller this year, dude. They're going to be a clearinghouse for Major League Baseball the way that the Cardinals were in 2023. And the Braves, I don't think are going to be a seller. They seem to still believe that they're somehow in this thing. That team stinks, man. They're really bad.
Sure, but the concern is that you start to fall into that category.
Totally.
And then I can't look at this as they're a pushover team that you get the win with. You might be in the same category as those teams. So
your schedule coming out of the break should be very advantageous. Arizona's bad. Colorado's horrific. Miami's horrible. And then you've got a 4-game set against San Diego. And you'll size yourself up there. So if you can stay in this thing up until the All-Star break, you should be able to put yourself into a position to maintain a spot that's right in the race. But it's really a question of what happens over the next month, because that's what we have up until this year's All-Star break. They have got to get this thing back on the tracks.
And if I could channel my inner front office for the Cardinals, I think it's more so what happens against the Brewers, Reds, and Cubs.
That's fair.
Because if you lose 3 or 4 to the Brewers, and let's say you win the series against the Reds, but then you lose 3 or 4 against the Cubs, and then when you get to July,
the Cubs again.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose those 3 series, if you're John Mozeliak and kind of hanging on this, like, hey, could we be buyers if we're still in this thing? Let's say you're a couple games still out of the wild card spot, but man, you just lost to 2 NL Central teams that have leapfrogged you, pushed you backwards a little bit, and now you're measuring sticks against the Phillies, the Padres, and the Giants. That's going to be really hard to sell.
So here's my question. T-Bone, you've asked this a few different times. I think it's an interesting theory. If the Cardinals made it to the playoffs last year, they snuck in. They didn't win anything, but they snuck into the playoffs last year. They found a way. Fetty worked out. Tommy Pham worked out. All of these different things, right? Maybe Sean Armstrong was a little better than they ended up getting out of him.
What do you mean? Tommy did work out. He had a home run.
Tommy was fine. It's just the team went into this horrible
Yeah, but they
spiral
didn't hit a home run, pinch hit home run up until Tommy.
It was really bad. So let's say they had made it to the playoffs last year. Your theory is they might not have gone with this youth movement. Maybe they go out and they add an extra bullpen arm, and maybe they sign a $10 million starter, something like that, right? And instead of the runway that they've gone with, maybe a right-handed bat, they end up just basically being where they were in previous iterations. One thing that I am wondering as they're going through these struggles right now, and I'm sure our text line will light up and be like, BK, this is what we've been saying all along. Okay. Is the best thing for this team to be a couple of games back at the deadline and make the move that a lot of people think that they should anyways, which is trading Ryan Helsley, maybe selling a couple of these other arms and operating that way as a small seller, but a seller nonetheless? Or is the best thing for this team to be like right in the playoff mix, add a little bit, don't sell anything, and then see what happens, and maybe you end up getting to the playoffs? What do you think is, in the bigger picture for the Cardinals organization, the best case scenario for them in 2025? I think that's tough. I don't know the answer, but what do you think?
I mean, I think best case scenario, it might be trading away and gaining assets. And it comes down to what you guys said, and I can't dispute it. I find it frustrating that it's how a team would operate, is thinking more about the next 5 years than also focusing on, hey, we might be able to do what you just said there, which is make the playoffs this year. And what could be your one and only run with a team, but I digest there. I think the best case scenario is you look to just bolster the minor leagues, right? You look to add more pieces, and especially because you have Ryan Helsley. He's really the only one that's driving that conversation because he will be one of the best assets on the market. If he wasn't there, say he had 2 more years of control, I think you probably push yourself a little bit. You try and push and see, okay, let's see if we make the playoffs. But because you have this one great piece that's going to be top 3 or 4, if not number 1, on terms of the pieces that can be moved at the deadline, I think they will choose that route. They will choose the route of, hey, we said we're all about runway. We said this is, when you talk about runway, what you're really saying is this is also about the future. I think that's what drives you to the North Star of, then we should sell Ryan Helsley if it comes down to what's best overall for the organization.
How do you feel, Alex?
I think if they would have made, we're still talking about them making the playoffs last year and what they would have done.
Nope. Did you miss the rest of that?
Yeah, I did, because I thought we were still talking about that. That was where my mind was at, because I was waiting to speak on that one. And then when he went into the rant, I was gone on it.
So the Cardinals last year, T-Bone's theory, I'll just restate this real quick for you.
And I want to point out, too, he asked me the specific question towards my rant.
Yeah, but that's what the question he asked was where my mindset was, right? That if they would have made the playoffs.
That's okay. His theory, this is how I set up the current situation. His theory is that if the Cardinals had made it to the playoffs last year, they just kind of run it back. They do what they've done, right? They stabilize things. They add a couple of pieces, whatever. This year, and he thinks that would have been the wrong thing, right? The best thing for the organization was actually to miss the playoffs a year ago and to have to go with this runway. So that sets up where you're at right now, which leads us to the deadline. Is the best thing for the Cardinals in the bigger picture framing for them to sell a little bit with Helsley, maybe with Steven Matz, stuff like that, expiring deals, sell a little bit? Or is it to push, to find yourself back into the playoff race and to potentially push a little bit without knowing if you're for sure going to be able to get into the playoffs or not? Which of those do you think, bigger picture-wise, is better for this organization?
I think if you're going bigger picture, it's selling. I mean, you're not sitting in a playoff spot. You're not,
even though there's the potential for them to still get into the playoffs, like what the Blues did.
Yeah, I think you're looking at assets that aren't going to be here beyond this year, and those assets could get you believe, a bigger haul. You're still going to, even if you're 2 games out of a wild card spot, you can still look at the team if you sell a Ryan Helsley and say, hey, look, this is where we were at, but we believe you still can make a push. It's just this was the decision that was best for the team. You can still hope that they make a run. Maybe the team takes that is offended by that decision and they go on some type of tear. But as much as I believe playoff atmosphere is good for a team's growth, big picture-wise, I also can't be 2 or 3 games out of a wild card spot with the Padres, Phillies, and Giants holding those spots and say, well, we need to make the playoffs, because then you don't make the playoffs. You pass up on the opportunity to get a return back that could benefit you for next year, and then you lose on both sides of it.
I think that's probably right. I hate that it's right. I hate that it's right.
I think what's so frustrating about that, when you talk about that, is if you always are going to what's best for the organization, your answer is always going to be leaning towards the sell route, right? Like there's no real, well, what's best for our future? Oh, well, trading away some of our future to go out and try and help us for a playoff run. Like you always end up leading yourself down that path.
I would disagree with that a little bit because I do think that playoff opportunities are valuable. And this is, I'm not going to give the 5-minute rant, but for the Blues, I think it was a really big deal for them to have that playoff opportunity this year. For young guys, to find out where you're at with some of these players and to see how they respond to the pressures that exist in the postseason. I think the same thing could be true for the Cardinals. So that is where you get yourself to a place where you're like, that's actually really valuable for some of our young guys. And I don't want to undersell that. But man, I watched that game last night. And I thought to myself, is that the kind of arm that you could get for Helsley? Like, could you get a guy like Jacob Mizorowski? Could you get a guy like him for Helsley? And if so, what does that do for the next 2 years? You know, could you...
Or could you get two arms that provide you depth for next season so that you're not sitting here and saying, well, we can't play McGreevy because he's our only option.
And to put some context around this, Mizorowski came into the season as a top 50-ish prospect in Major League Baseball. Baseball America had him at 44. They were the highest on him, but others like MajorLeagueBaseball.com had him at number 100. Baseball Prospectus had him at number 65. Robbie Snelling, who was the prized prospect that was traded last year at the trade deadline for Tanner Scott, the top closer available, he was ranked by Baseball America to be the number 27 prospect. He was ranked by MLB.com at 36 and Baseball Prospectus at 55. This is the caliber of prospects that you would be getting potentially for Ryan Helsley at the deadline. And watching that last night, I thought to myself, like, man, I get how you can't pass that up. I get it. I hate it. It bothers me internally, but I get it. Because if you have the opportunity for 6 years of that, that's what you're missing. You're missing that guy in your rotation right now because you've got Sonny and you could sign the next Sonny if you wanted to. 3, 4, 5 years, $30 million on a contract. Like this organization has shown a willingness to do that. They don't have this. This is what they're lacking right now. And if that becomes available for you from somebody at the trade deadline, you probably have to accept it. If you're out of a spot, if you're in a spot, then I think it's done. It's a little different.
And that's where, and it depends on where, like, to me, I would agree with that. If you're in a spot, I think you have to be a team that pushes. I don't know if that's what they'll view it as, right? And it comes down to, and you're going to hate this comment, it comes down to what are we going to do in October? And the answer is we could have just passed up potentially that kind of arm for not just thinking about the next 2 years, thinking about the next like 6 years and maybe 7 depending on when he gets here.
Yep.
And we're talking about like maybe not doing that kind of a trade for maybe 3 games in October.
It's tough.
And that's where like
it's hard.
I think if the thing Bowden wrote,
and you might not get there. There's no guarantee. Like on my route where you keep Helsley, you're not guaranteed to get in.
And then that's
you're not guaranteed that dude's healthy when you get in.
That's even more of a dagger to a team that had a trade chip that could have gotten you something of worth, and you still miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you don't add any depth in your organization's pipeline. You don't go out there and take any swings on guys. And let's say you do the comp pick, and I know BK has made the reference of like, look, you're still getting at best a second-round pick for this. Dude, that's 5+ years away from even impacting this team, whereas the piece you could get in return could help you next year.
It could.
But that also puts the reliance on a front office that actually can target these guys.
And that's another part of this. I kind of trust Chaim Bloom to do it. And if you're trading for future assets, Mo has already said publicly he will ask Chaim for input on what he wants because it's stuff that Mo's not going to have. Mo's not going to see whatever the return is at the deadline if they sell. That's all Chaim. Chaim is the one that will be in charge when those guys are impacting the major league level. Mo has also said publicly that there will start to be a transition right after the deadline. Like that transition will start in August, not in October, November, et cetera. So that way Chaim Bloom is basically in charge by the time that the regular season comes to an end. He'll be the one that is probably doing the end of season press conference this year.
You mean Mo gets to avoid it?
That would be my guess. I'm not positive on that, but that would be my assumption based on the way that Mo's been talking so far.
Good for you, Mo, if you get to avoid that.
Coming up next, the junk drawer here in BK and Ferrario. need a ruling from you guys.
Uh-oh.
I think I've got a greenhouse taking place in my house right now.
Man, this is really going to, if people are out on me prior to this segment, boy, they are going to hate me at the end of this one.
So, my wife is having a moment with plants. It's really been going on now for about 6 months. She fell in love with plants over the winter. Her and her twin sister, they both got into it at the same time. And now we just have these plants everywhere. Our main table in our kitchen, we have a relatively small house. So our kitchen, it's an open floor concept, so everything kind of bleeds into each other. So it's like living room, kitchen, dining room, it's all in that same area, right? So our table that's in there is just like overflowing. I sent you guys a picture of it yesterday. I don't think I'm overstating things here. It's like overflowing with plants because she wants them to get the light over the course of the day. I thought eventually we would put them into their homes and then occasionally we'd put them out for light, but they just stay there. They just live there now. That's their home. I no longer get to use that table. That's the plant's home. And now we're starting to get these gnats in our house. And it's because of the plants. Yep. There's nothing you can do about them. She's done. I would give her a lot of credit. She's put up this thing that you could plug in and it attracts them and they get stuck to it and whatnot. But there's still a lot of gnats that are flying around in the house. Is there a limit on the number of plants that one should have in their home? Did we go well above? I would say we probably have 30.
Oh my God.
You're well above.
Yeah, you're
right
well
now?
above.
Is there a limit that I should have put on this? Did I screw up? Is this on me?
It depends. Do you like living with gnats?
I don't love it. No, it's not fun.
Yeah, because that's what you get. The part why I preface saying people are going to hate me, my wife is not allowed to have plants in our house. Because when the plants are there,
I have 20 right now. I just counted. I have 20 on the kitchen table.
Yeah, no,
It's about 18 too many.
There's a way to limit the gnats. You have to change the soil out consistently. You have to clean underneath, if there's water that sits under there, because that's what generates those gnats. But I tell Katie because Katie hates bugs. She hates ants. She hates gnats. Anything that flies in our house, she despises. But yet she loves plants. And I say, you don't get both. You can have plants in here and live with the bugs, or the plants go outside and you don't have bugs in our house. And she goes with the plants outside. But she sees it because every time she brings plants in, because in the wintertime, she's got about 3 of them that she tries to keep alive until the spring. And then she puts them outside and they stay till the fall. And then, they either keep going or they die. But I tell her, it's you bring them in. But I promise you in the wintertime, you're going to have gnats everywhere. And I mean, you know me, I clean to make sure that that's not a problem. But yeah, you got to make it there's 1 or 2 that can be in my house. But you have to clean the soil out. You have to repot it probably almost every other week, clean underneath it so that the gnats aren't a problem.
Hey, you want to do that, BK?
Yeah, that's
and I don't do that, by the way. That's Katie. I said, if you want the plants, you take care of them.
Yeah, we had an issue a while ago where we were changing out one of the plants. When I say we, my wife was, but I don't want to put all of this on her. But let's be honest, we know what this is. And the soil that she used had some of, I don't know what exactly it's called, but the white rocks that are in there. And there's just little itty big things.
Look like marshmallows.
Yeah, they look like that at least. They don't feel like that, though. They're very hard. And my garbage disposal learned that the hard way, unfortunately, because we were doing it in the sink. And we put it on the garbage disposal, or it fell down the garbage disposal. She wasn't pushing it in, nothing like that. It fell down, and then I had to fix that because it got stuck. It got jammed because of one of those rocks.
Your wife hates bugs, though. Despises them. Mm-hmm. So
she's not afraid of gnats, though. She's afraid of June bugs. Those are
I don't mean afraid of hates them. You don't want them in your house. That's the part that always surprises me, because it's when people, because I'd go on pest control calls all the time when I was doing it, and we'd get people be like, I don't know why we keep having these gnats, because gnats and fruit flies are different. Sometimes you get fruit flies and it's because you don't clean the garbage disposal enough.
Yeah, no, we don't have any of those.
And we tell people to pour bleach, pour vinegar down your sink, and it'll help with that. But we'd get these calls and they'd be like, I don't know why I got these gnats. And you'd walk inside and it looked like their living room threw up a greenhouse. And I'd be like, you're not going to like to hear this, man, but the reason why is because all of these plants in here, I'd say, when was the last time you repotted them or cleaned them? Oh, I haven't done that in years. I said, well, welcome to gnats.
Somebody just sent us a picture of a plant spray for gnats. I'm buying that.
Good luck, man.
Buying that today. You
Good
think
luck.
that's going to work?
Nope.
Okay.
But good luck.
Is it just totally fake?
No,
This
I mean, it's
stuff's
not
just
fake.
nonsense?
It will be a temporary fix, but like the more plants you have, the more bugs you're going to have.
All right, so why is it only in the summer, though? In the winter, we had no problems. They just started showing up like within the last couple of weeks.
Because it's colder out in the wintertime.
cool.
You don't really get those around.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the air covered service text line.
Go home and tell Kara, no more plants.
I'm not doing that, man. I just want to know, like, am I the one to blame? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah. Well, the whole point, too, is to plant them outside, right? Like to get them the
They're
sunlight
supposed
outside.
to be in nature.
Yeah, put them out with all of the other plants.
But they don't grow as well outside, especially in the summer here in St. Louis because it's overly hot. I've
Just
heard
gotta
all
water
over.
them a lot. Early mornings, man.
Yeah. A lot of plants don't like it out there. A lot of plants are house plants.
I don't know.
Apparently.
Katie's got an app that she scans a plant and it tells her what it is and how to feed it, and she
what
loves
we've
it.
got.
She's got her little garden greenhouse area. We got 4 garden beds with vegetables and flowers, and we're going to build a little thing so the squirrels don't eat it, and she loves it.
We've got 2 tomato plants outside. We've got a couple of pepper plants outside now. We've got another one out there as well. I don't know exactly what it is. So we've got those outside. We've got a bunch of different plants inside. There's a lot going on.
Send them back to nature.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We'll have a game of One's Gotta Go coming up at 1:30. So if you give us 4 scenarios, we'll tell you which one's got to go here on BK and Ferrario. But coming up next, are the Cardinals going to send Granillo right back down? Or is this the guy that ends up getting a longer look, despite what happened yesterday with him? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. All right, so here's a question for you, T-Bone. I want to get your thoughts on this. The Brewers just made a move yesterday. Aaron Savali was big mad that they decided to move him to the bullpen. They had that guy that you saw last night. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move you to the bullpen because did you see this?
Yeah.
You see that?
Good luck, AA Ron.
That's what we're going to go ahead and go with. Savali, we'll try to find you a new home. So they did exactly that. They traded Aaron Savali today for Andrew Vaughn, former top 5 pick. He has not been very good at the big league level in a few years now. He had a ton of promise early on, and I remember one of the guys that I grew up listening to, his name's Danny Parkins. He now does stuff on Fox Sports 1, if you've seen any of their morning shows. He previously was working on an afternoon show in Chicago, and I remember him saying, Andrew Vaughn is their next star. He's the guy in Chicago. He's going to be the one that leads the charge of this era of Chicago White Sox baseball, right? Who knows what the ceiling could possibly be for this? And there was reasons to be excited about him. He's hit 21 home runs back in 2023. That, again, top 5 pick previously. He's got this crazy power. Everything was in front of him, and then it's gone. The power is not what it was early on in his career. The on base is really, really low. There's just a lack of upside there now. It's kind of Nolan Gorman-esque. But there's still that pop potential from the right side. Here's my question to you guys, because the Brewers were proactive, and they decided, you know what, there's nothing left for us to get out of Aaron Savali. He did his job. He had a spot in our rotation for a little while. Now we're going with a young guy. Would you have made the move that the Brewers just made and traded Eric Fedde for Andrew Vaughn? I don't know that the White Sox would have done that because they had Fedde and they decided to trade him last year at the deadline, but maybe because clearly they valued him. They were the team that signed him when he came over from overseas. Would you have made this move if you were in the Cardinal spot? If Andrew Vaughn was offered to you for Eric Fedde?
For this team? No, I don't think so. I don't know how and I get he's a right-handed bat, he's a power bat. I don't. Where does he play?
Right-handed bat off of the bench, most likely, for this team. And maybe starts for you as a DH against left-handed pitchers.
Isn't that Luke and Baker?
Could be. He's more productive than what Baker has been at the big league level.
Well, if we can't have Luke and Baker up here, who basically his role as a bench bat righty off the bench to play DH against lefties, why would I trade Eric Fedde for it? I mean, I'm
sure.
I think if I'm looking at Fedde, and I know what I'm saying is there's a lottery ticket, but I think I'd be trading Fedde for a player that's an unknown commodity to see what I could get.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page. I would not have made this deal if I was in the Cardinals' shoes. I don't think they have the depth pitching-wise that the Brewers have, so I think it makes you more prone to, if one guy then gets hurt in your rotation, you're screwed, man. And if you want to make a move with Palante at any point in time, like a month, 2 months down the road, well, you have nobody that's an alternative to him. You're going to Quinn Matthews, and you better not break him. Now you're in a spot where you could be pushing prospects quicker than what you're comfortable with. But this is the kind of move that I think people look at the Brewers and they say, man, they're proactive. They made the move early in the season for Willy Adames, and it worked out great for them. This year, they're already making a move. Now, it was because a guy requested a trade. They didn't have to grant that. They found a move that would work, and they did so in 24 hours. That was up to their standards. They canvassed the league and said, hey, we need a right-handed bat, some thump. Let's go see what this looks like. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but they extracted some value for a guy that can have a role for them. Savali wasn't going to help them in their bullpen, man. His stuff doesn't play up out there. He's a starter. His value is the innings that he's eating. So I was curious your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it either. I get the thought process because I do like the fact that the Brewers are willing to take a swing on this and say, hey, look, this guy was a 3rd or 4th overall pick, whatever it was. And say, look, the hit tool's there, right? Like he can hit fastballs typically. This year he's been struggling with them, but he's hit fastballs in the past. He's been an above league average hitter in the past. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery. You look at the White Sox and they are just a disaster. So I get trying to take the risk on it, but there's 2 things. One, you mentioned the Fedde thing. Like the Cardinals just don't have the depth to make that kind of a trade. So that's probably the number 1 driving force for me on why you don't do it. But 2 is, and I think you're kind of seeing this where the Cardinals are struggling with this at times with Nolan Gorman. Now he's kind of getting a little bit of runway and he's starting to hit with it. It is so hard to fix a guy's swing when he just sits on the bench. And I think that is another reason why I would not do this. It's why I'm curious to see if Milwaukee can make it work because that's where he's going to be for them. I would not personally have done it because I don't think you could fix him, and you trade too much pitching depth for where you're at as an organization.
I'm with you. Do you guys think they make a move in their bullpen today? Yesterday, they had Granillo go 2 1/3. He threw like 40 pitches for them. Typically, this is the day where you would see, okay, kind of similar to what they did with Roycroft. You gave us what we needed. Now you're going back down. I hope they don't do that today. I don't think that Granillo should go back down. He's somebody that I think can have a home here. Do you guys think that he will be heading back down by the end of the day today?
I don't. I think he stays. I think you saw how good he was for you and how helpful he was. You only had to use 2 bullpen arms last night on top of Gray only giving you 4 1/3. I think your bullpen's fine if you can't use him for a couple of days and keep him up here.
I think he stays, but I don't feel confident in that answer.
You're gonna send him
I
down
hope
to go
he
get
stays.
what? Roycroft again?
They can't even get Roycroft.
So
I mean,
who
it'd
you
probably
getting?
be Fernandez would be my guess.
Oof.
Yeah, because you can't do Roycroft.
I mean, Fernandez is good, I
I
guess.
don't think you can do Munoz. You can't do Swanson. Or actually, you know what? By that process, he stays.
Yeah.
He might stay. I mean, you're right. He looked pretty good. I think you don't want to send him down and wait 15 days again.
That's
Your
slider
options are
plays, by the way.
I think Graceffo. I think he's Graceffo and Fernandez. Those are probably the 2 guys that you could potentially call up.
I'll just wait 2 days.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you got 2 days and you can just leave him in there and you got plenty of other guys to use.
Brad Thompson, Cardinals analyst, joins us next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Every Friday, we're happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by Brad Thompson. He joins us today from Milwaukee, where I understand he played some golf this morning. BT, appreciate the time as always. How'd you hit him?
I hit him a lot, BK, so many times. So the plan on this road trip was to play golf today and then play golf in Chicago on Monday. But a little problem is I'm going to have to go find somewhere to buy golf balls before Monday because I lost so many balls today. I can't. It was embarrassing. It was one of those rounds.
Over under BT, how many balls did you lose?
If I'm setting the over-under, like 10.5 at least.
Oh, that's a good day.
I lost 3 on one hole. Yeah, so
hold on.
It was not my best round of golf.
How many did you lose on one hole?
3.
Oh, okay. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Were they all off the tee box?
Not the best. I will say here's what I'll tell you. 2 of them off the tee on one, and then I bladed one into a house. So my best shot of the day came on a sand shot that I bladed out of the sand. It hit off a waterfall, off a rock that was 40 yards past the green and came back within about 15 feet. That was my best shot of the day.
Easy, Happy Gilmore.
That sounds like putt-putt
No
golf.
big deal.
You mentioned a waterfall.
That's why you lost the balls. You're
Right
playing
through the
golf on
windmill
putt-putt.
and in. Yeah.
So your golf game basically went as well as the Cardinals game went last night,
Come
BT.
on, man.
It was that's a good segue. It was basically Sonny's 5th inning. It's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
You want to start there? Do you want to talk about Mizorowski, who, God bless it, they've got another one of these guys. Where do you want to start with what happened last night?
Doesn't matter to me. Look. Last night is just kind of a culmination of the last week, right? Cardinals are in their 5-game losing skid. I think it's the longest streak in Major League Baseball right now. I think the Washington Nationals maybe have lost 5 also. And right now it's kind of a culmination of all things, right? Over the last 5 games, you look at the starters' ERA, I think it's north of 7 right now. They're getting out-hit a ton, and obviously Mizorowski doing what he did through 5 innings before he looked like a baby giraffe and almost like broke a leg walking back up the mound.
Well, okay.
But, dude, he might not be the best athlete in the world, but boy, can he pitch, you know? Like that kid is super impressive. I was, happy for him, his family that was in attendance. You could tell his mom was praying through every pitch. I think that kid's going to be just fine, throwing triple digits, a good cutter. Like it was impressive to see. But yeah, right now, just there's nothing clicking, right? Sometimes you'll have the pitching there and then the hitting won't be there. You did have a couple of games against the Blue Jays specifically where your offense was able to come back in games but just couldn't quite get over the top. But yeah, it's a struggle right now, and the big key is to make sure you're keeping the energy up, keeping the excitement up. This team needs, from an offensive standpoint, you need Donovan back. You hope to get some clarity on that, but been a rough little stretch right now.
Alex, you mentioned they're getting out hit thing. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals, it's the first time they've allowed at least 9 hits in 11 straight games since 1997. Before that, you go back to 1959.
Oh.
It's not what you want.
Oh, well. Did they make the playoffs in 97 or 59?
I can check it. I don't think so.
Probably not, I would say, with that one. So, BT, we've talked about this, and in the middle of a season, it's hard to pinpoint a game or a series and say, like, does it feel like it's critical to their season? But this game tonight / this series against the Brewers, it does kind of feel like you're at a crossroads, doesn't it?
Well, it's just anytime I think you face a division foe, too, and with that win last night, the Brewers got a half-game lead over the Cardinals. Cardinals now in 3rd place. In the division, they always feel bigger anyhow. It's so hard to just, especially not even halfway through the season, just say, well, this is the series if you don't win that, because they could rattle off 6-7 wins in a row, and then all of a sudden you're right back in the thick of things. But you're looking for more consistency right now. You're looking for your starting pitching to give you a chance. It's going to be Eric Fetty tonight, who's, by the way, has been very good as of late. You look at his last 6 starts, he's got an ERA just over 2. Like, he's been really good. Last time out against the Dodgers, he was solid, 5 1/3 scoreless. So you hope that he's able to do it. And then, some timely hitting. Your offense, again, does look different without Donovan. You hope that toe is good to go for him. So I don't know if this is necessarily like a pivotal series, but you are going through a stretch of good opponents, a lot of games with not that many off days coming up, and you're going to get tested big time, and you could dig yourself a hole during this, so the Cardinals need to make sure they don't do that.
Hey, BT, you want to talk about something positive?
I would love to do that.
What are we learning about Alec Burleson this season?
I think the same thing that we've known about Burley just in general. The dude can flat out hit. And you give him consistent reps, and he will give you consistent results. I think that Alec Burleson is just a guy that throughout his minor league career, this is what he's done. He started a little bit slow. He's picking it up. He's hitting right around 300. He's driving the baseball, and he's a guy that you want to get at-bats to every day. Now, obviously, it's a lot easier to give him those at-bats right now when Jordan Walker is on the IL, and hopefully he ends up making it back soon. I think it's almost a disservice to you to have him as like a platoon bat, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But he's been great. I think that he is somebody that you feel comfortable plugging in pretty much anywhere in the lineup, right? They had him hitting fifth last night behind Contreras. He provides a bat behind him, so you kind of feel like you have to go to Contreras. I think Alec Burleson has been really good, but I think we've known that for a couple of years. And by the way, he looks steadier and steadier in the field. Whether you put him at first base or you have him in right field, the guy makes all the plays for you.
BT, what'd you think of Granillo's game?
I liked it. Like we didn't see as much of the swing and miss out of Granillo as he got in the minor leagues. But what he did was get guys off the barrel, and that's the biggest key when you're pitching is don't be afraid, right? Go out there and pound some strikes. He was not afraid. He pounded the strike zone through his 2 2/3, didn't walk anybody. And that slider of his, you could tell why it's so effective. He was the minor league slider, or best slider in the organization last year, was rated by Baseball America. It's late. It's got that good break. His fastball plays in the mid-90s. I think that Granillo could end up being a good addition to this bullpen. I don't know what the role ends up looking like. I doubt it's going to be that bulk reliever like he did in the ball game yesterday. I think that he'll end up having more swing and miss than that. But this is a guy that I know Ollie and his staff have been wanting here for a bit and needed something to happen to get that done. They got him on the 40-man roster. They got him up in the big leagues. I thought he looked really good.
Hey, BT, final question that I've got for you. It's not necessarily pertaining to anything Cardinals related necessarily, but over the weekend, we got a chance to see a bunch of stars come into town with the Dodgers, whether it be Shohei, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. Like I went out there at the park on Friday night just because I wanted to see that in person. Who is the guy for you that you most enjoy watching in person when you get a chance to do so? Is there one player that sticks out in that way?
Oh, man. It's a tough one. One for me that just as soon as you said it, oftentimes when I think of this, my mind goes to starting pitchers. And Paul Skeens popped up just in my head as soon as you said it. Like he's one that I want to see. Do I want to see the rest of the Pirates? Not necessarily, but I do. I want to see that guy, right? And you bring up a great point, man. Having a complete ball club is awesome. Having star power just feels different. And having those guys that you just, when you walk around, you're going to see their jersey everywhere. You're going to buy tickets to just go see that person. So he's on that list for me. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is a generational talent. You want to see a guy like him. But Skeens was the first one that popped up. Who were the ones for you guys? Shohei, obviously. Who else do you got?
I've always liked watching Mookie. Like ever since he was with the Red Sox, ever since he's been with the Red Sox in terms of his athleticism, and then when you see him play 3 different positions and always find ways to go 3 for 4 in games, he's always been one for me.
Judge is my guy.
Yeah, good call.
I mean, have you looked at his numbers this year, BT? He's batting .392.
There was an astounding stat that Chip came across the other day. Something that this season he has raised his career slugging percentage by like 11 or something like that. Like it's his career, like bulk career, with the numbers that he's put up. His numbers are outlandish and don't seem like they should be real. Yeah, he's definitely in the conversation.
Nobody is Albert Pujols. I want to say that on the front end. Is this the closest thing we've seen to Albert since Albert? This and Miggy, maybe?
Yeah, and maybe Trout for a little bit of time there, too. He probably ends up in that conversation. But, yes, like we talk about the most dangerous right-handed hitters to ever play the game. I think that's your conversation right there. Those 3-4 guys that are right there in the mix. So Judge is at a point right now. He's got an OPS over 1,200 on the season. Oh, that's right, over 1,200. I think Shohei's behind him, and he's just over 1,000. So like, it's obscene what he's able to do. He's not pitchable. Like, I don't care what you're trying to do to him, he's got an answer for it. So getting a chance to watch something special. Look, I'm rooting for 400. I'd love to see the guy, especially with his power profile. This isn't Luis Arraez slapping 350 around the ballpark, and I mean that with all due respect to Luis Arraez, who's a special talent. Dude never strikes out and hits over 300 every single year. But to do it with the power that Judge has, it's obscene.
He's on pace for 40 doubles and 60 homers and 140 ribbies, and is also, by the way, batting
high score
.392. It's so ridiculous. One of the other guys,
shut up and take my money.
One of the other guys I'll throw into this mix, Bryce Harper. Right, anytime he's in town, I like seeing Bryce Harper when he's here. BT, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy the series this weekend out in Milwaukee. Hopefully, the next go around with the golf game is a little better than this one. We'll catch up with you again next Friday. Happy Father's Day, by the way.
I'm going to go see if I can find a Dick's Sporting Goods. Happy Father's Day to you guys, too. I hope you enjoy your families this weekend. And if you play golf, hit them straight.
Hit them straight, BT, or at least find the ball that you hit to the right.
Go.
Good call. All right, see you, boys.
Take it easy. That's Brad Thompson. Appreciate his time as always. He joins us on Fridays here on BK and Ferrario.
It's not bad golf unless you lose an entire sleeve of golf balls, which is about 18 of them.
I just don't golf, and it seems to go better for me that
10's
way.
not that bad. 10's a normal weekend out for me.
Really?
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes you just
I would
hit them to the right. You got to take another
This
swing.
is why, like, I have trouble. I keep saying I want to play golf a lot more until I do that because I can't afford golf balls.
That's
well,
my
you
thing,
can get
man.
them
I
cheap.
can't afford it.
You can get them cheap,
The
refurbished.
time, the money, it just feels like a lot to buy into. I would love for golf to be a big part of my personality. A, I know I would be terrible. And B, I mean, you've seen my baseball swing. Like, it's not going to go well for me in golf. But B, if I'm going to be terrible at it, at least like don't make me invest a ton money-wise and time-wise. I'm going to have to do all of those things.
I'll
That's
say
just
this,
the
though, man.
trifecta of nope, not
When you
interested.
make contact on one, though, and it lands in the fairway, oh, my God. It is the greatest feeling in the world.
See, that's my thing with running. Running doesn't cost me as much money.
Absolutely not.
I'm actually not terrible at it.
Also, can't
And
drink while I run.
When you go on a run and you do really well in a race, dude, the feeling that you get at the end,
You know what-
where you're
you know
like,
what
oh man, I beat my PR by X, Y, or Z.
You know
It's
what
the
really
best.
good in a race is for me?
Absolute best.
Did you finish it? That's
Well,
what really good in the
everybody's
race
got
is for
different
me.
goals, right? It's my victory means health thing. Unlocking your inner champion means different things for different people.
Oh.
If you're somebody that's at the very beginning of your running stage, it's like, hey, that's finishing the race is the goal. And now I'm trying to get down to like a sub 140, sub 135 half marathon, and that
sounds awful.
a different goal entirely. Everybody's
sounds
got different
awful.
aspirations, you know?
Oh, that sounds awful.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hit the rewind. One's got to go next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here. The Sports Center update brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals back in action tonight. Game 2 of their 4-game set with the Milwaukee Brewers. 7:10 will be first pitch. Eric Fedde will be on the mound for St. Louis. Freddie Peralta will get the start for Milwaukee. The Sports Center is brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, let's do this. 314-399-9646 is the air comfort service text line for One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 different options. We'll tell you which one's gotta go. You can always do this on YouTube as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where the graveyard chat is available for you as always. If you guys want to throw any One's Gotta Go scenarios, we will get them over on the YouTube chat today as well. First of all, T-Bone, you been working on your Soligas?
I have.
You put
I
in a
heard,
little more
crushed
effort?
it. He has
I heard
crushed it.
that it needed to be improved.
We
So I
gave
tried
you
my
the
best.
advice, and you ran with it, and now you are the best on this radio station.
I want to make sure that we bring attention to that because I think he's been putting a little bit more of his heart and soul into
It's
it.
the first time you point out when guys do good.
No, I just don't see it from
I know,
you.
we don't get compliments very often.
Well, you and I give each other compliments.
That's right.
The
You've been great today, by
third
the
wheel
way.
different. You've been great too today, man.
Thanks, man.
Great
Alex
takes.
didn't even listen to something that you said. It was like a 3-minute segment of our show, and Alex just flat out did not listen to it.
That's
Now,
all right.
I will say if we're doing like the Fast Lanes version of this, which is like comments and criticisms or whatever it is, my criticism of myself, I was a little long-winded in the open today.
You interrupted us an entire segment yesterday.
That's true. That was bad, but that was
Actually,
yesterday.
2 segments.
I was moving on. Today, my
don't
open was like
care.
3.5 minutes. It was too long.
I don't care, man. I was going down a rabbit hole, and I just went for a second, all right? You interrupted for 2 whole segments.
All right, one's got to go. Drinking edition. Bourbon, whiskey, vodka, or beer? Bourbon. People are going to get mad at me. Bourbon and whiskey are effectively the same thing.
Oh,
I was actually going to ask
here.
that question.
So bourbon is just, it has to be made in a specific area. Whiskey is anything that's made elsewhere.
Hold on. Put your pinky up while you're saying that.
I know. I'll be in Louisville in a couple of weeks for my bourbon tour.
It's not bourbon, it's whiskey.
So let's say like bourbon / whiskey, vodka or beer. Let's give 3 options here.
If that's the case, then I'd get rid of the vodka.
Vodka is a no doubt gotta go for me.
Vodka is only good if you're doing shooters. I don't do a whole lot of mixed drinks with vodka.
See, I'll do some mixed drinks with vodka, but it would be my last choice. If somebody hands me a mixed drink and it's got like vodka soda, I'll drink it. I would prefer to have gin and soda. I would prefer to have tequila and
I was
something.
going to say, I do
but
tequila over vodka.
100%.
Yeah. I'm with you guys. I'll drink it, but it's like I'd rather have a bourbon or a whiskey or a beer over vodka.
I've also had some bad experiences with whiskey, though, so that's why it's tough.
One's got to go Rec Sports Edition. Slow pitch softball, golf, sand volleyball, or bowling. Which one's got to go?
Oh, bowling.
Oh,
I've
really?
never been into bowling, man.
enjoy
Oh,
bowling.
wow.
I just, and it's like, I don't know. There's just something about it. I don't like putting on the other nasty shoes.
That is weird. I'm not a fan
Not
of
know
that.
what you were about to
I
say
don't
there. I
like-
thought we were about to have to dump you again.
I don't know, man. It's something that it's not my cup of tea. The others are a little bit more exciting for me.
Man, I'm going to get crushed for this, but y'all that went to the home run derby know I am not a softball player.
I love rec
I
softball.
love baseball. I love watching and consuming the sport. I am horrific at it. I am so bad. I told Stalter that up front. He's like, oh, no, I'm sure you're fine. I was like, no, dude, I want you to know I am setting your expectations properly. I will not hit a home run. And if you're okay with that, I'll help you out.
But that's home run. Rec softball's fun because it's it's competitive. You're with guys. You get to joke around and
Alex,
have fun.
You know how competitive I am, and when I'm bad at something, I do not enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, that's how
I
it's-
do not enjoy slow pitch softball at all. I would also be really bad at golf, but at least in that scenario, like
Oh, I'm competitive in golf, and I do get pissed off.
I would not be competitive at all.
Yeah.
A team sport with so slow pitch softball, I would hate the fact that I am letting the team down. It would really bother me.
No, man, you'd be the guy we'd put behind the plate.
Yeah.
And then you're the guy that you just help.
That's
You don't
fine.
swing the bat. Stand there and make the pitcher get you out.
At least with golf, it's on me.
Yeah.
I can eat that. I can live with it. So slow pitch softball's got to go for me.
I enjoy playing slow pitch softball. I, in fact, played on Alex's team one time.
T-Bone was
now
good.
I'm a little offended. I got put behind home plate, but
He was bad.
I would say beach volleyball. I just don't enjoy playing the sport of volleyball. So I would say that's the one for me that's got to go.
That's fun. I hate sand, though, so that's the only
Yeah.
downside of it.
I like beach volleyball.
I know.
Somebody said, I've got a feeling BK is bad at most sports. I'm below average probably at most sports. I am bad at slow pitch softball.
What do you think you're the worst at? Is it slow pitch softball?
Yeah.
Mine would be soccer. I
mean,
don't
I'm
have the endurance or the coordination
Mine
to
would be
do
hockey
that.
because I can't skate.
Oh, that's probably fair.
I'm
yeah,
good at floor hockey. Like you might be good at like floor hockey. Or,
I've never tried
floor
hockey,
hockey,
so I
sure.
would probably be horrible at it. I just don't know that I'm horrible at it.
Ice hockey, I'm horrible. I'm having ice skating since I was like 12.
My version of stopping would be when I run into the boards.
Yeah, me too.
I have skated. Like, I know how to skate a little
You
bit.
gotta
Not
give me a
well,
minute.
but a little bit.
I still don't know how to
stink at
skate
it.
backwards in ice skating.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I'd be a forward.
Can do it at roller skating, though, which is really odd. Like, I can do it in rollerblades, can't do it in ice skates.
One's got to go. Vacation edition. Beach, mountain, cruise, or Europe. Probably the cruise for me. If I'm going to choose these four, I like being able to explore an area and spending multiple days in that area. The cruise, you get like 10 hours at any of the stops that you
Shut
go
up,
to.
man. You're not going to a beach. You're going to a pool at the hotel.
Yeah, but I get to explore the area.
Oh, you're exploring it from your
That's
hotel
right.
room? Mine would be cruise. I've done the cruise, and I have no interest in doing the cruise again. Unless it's like a Disney cruise with our girls, which at some point we're probably going to do, but that's the only, like, I have no interest on just going on a cruise with me and Katie.
I want to go on a cruise because I've never been, so that's not why I'm getting rid of it. I'm getting rid of it because of what you said. You can't really explore. You're kind of stuck in a tight boat area. Like, yeah, no.
From the 314, one's got to go South City Hoosier edition. Bush Light, no. Crocs, trucker-style hats, or a farmer's tan. I'd say Crocs for me.
Yeah, I hate Crocs.
I'm with
Never
you.
worn them. They just look weird on people.
Yeah,
And the people that like wear them were like, they're with like fancy attire. That's really odd to me.
when you say fancy attire, you mean like they've got like a Lightning McQueen thing in them? Yeah, I'm out on the Crocs.
One's got to go ocean, lake, creek, or a river.
All of them.
You're not into bodies of water?
No, lake would be fine. Like, I like lakes. I don't like Lake of the Ozarks because it's nasty. I like Table Rock Lake because it's cleaner. It's one of river or creek because there's snakes in that thing, and I don't need to know about it.
There's a
Ocean's
snake
up
in
there.
that creek.
Oh, creek specifically. Ocean's up there because I don't go past my kneecaps because I don't know what's underneath me. Lake's the one thing where it's just fish, so I'm not too worried about it.
I'd say get rid of the creek. I can do other stuff that are like activities in a river. We could go down a float trip. I'd enjoy that. Lake, you can go out on the boat. Ocean, you can sit at my hotel pool
And look at it.
overlooking the ocean and
hear
hear
it.
the waves crashing up against it. What am I doing at a creek? I'm good.
Jumping on
Shouldn't
rocks.
be in the creek, first of all. Like, did you fall in the creek? That's why you're in the creek.
Yeah. I'd probably say creek too. I think that's the best way to describe. There's just like, what are you doing there? Right? Like maybe you're walking through it when you're on like a hiking trail.
My whole body just
I'll say
tensed
that,
up there.
yeah.
Talking about like snakes and stuff. Oh, God.
I didn't say there's a snake in the
No,
water.
somebody just posted it today, Alex. There's snakes in lakes. And I'm like, oh, God, I've been in lakes and it's been under me. Ah, God.
All right, one's got to go. BK and Ferrario Childhood Edition. Played sports, played with toys, played outside. I played a lot of sports, played outside a lot. I guess I'll go play with toys. I mean, I played with toys, don't get me wrong, but the other two things I probably did more often, so I'll say played with toys got to go for me.
Yeah, I was a video game nerd there for a while, though, so it's hard to get rid of toys. Probably played outside. Like, at a certain age, it was fine, but, like, I'd be going to gyms to play basketball. I wouldn't be, like, going out to ride bikes or anything like that, so that would probably be the one I'd get rid of.
I was playing basketball outside in our front yard, like, every
Yeah,
night.
a lot.
Yeah, I was playing basketball at like the gym. My dad and I would go to 24-hour fitness by us, and we would just go to the court and we would just play in the evenings.
Yeah, I was poor, so I played in the front yard. I didn't have a 24-hour
Oh, yeah. 24-hour fitness membership, which was like $10 a month. Real.
Hey, it's not
real,
often that I get to say Rich Ferrario comes out.
rich blood
You
over
did
here.
live. You did live life
Real
large.
rich blood.
T-Bone was like,
geez.
yeah, my soda shop, we had one red light in the
I
entire
we
city.
had a gym in our
You
town.
guys are acting like I had a private gymnasium in my basement. It was a 24-hour fitness at the time. I think they're defunct now.
I'd say get rid of toys.
Coming up next, the Rewind here on BK and Ferrario.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Rhino Shield who can help the exterior of your home. Whether you got a older house and the paint is just starting to chip away, or maybe you purchased a home recently, but the previous owners, you just didn't like the color that they were working with, or you don't feel confident that it's going to last all of the elements of weather that you're going to have while you're staying at the home. That's where Rhino Shield comes into play. And my wife and I did this when we moved into our home 5 years ago, and it was because the previous owner, it was whitewashed brick. It just looked bad, and you could see the paint chipping off of it. And so when we called Darren to come out, he explained that what Rhino Shield uses is a ceramic coating that is engineered to outlast paint. It's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty. It's 100% waterproof. It deflects 90% of the UV rays, and no matter the surface you have, Rhino Shield will stick to it. So give Darren a call today. Have him come out, walk you through the free estimate, and you'll find everything out that you need to know to get the coating of a Rhino on your home. 877-25-RHINO, 877-25RHINO.com.
Some big news pass along. Can confirm Mitch Marner will not be returning to Toronto. He's going to be playing for a new team next season. Yeah, we know. Yes.
I've heard that 2 weeks ago.
Elliot Friedman saying that Mitch Marner is expected to sign with a Western Conference team.
Okay, so sorry, Carolina, but because the report was Carolina was willing to throw $14 million AAV at him. Sorry, Carolina, you're out.
There's
It's going to be L.A., Vegas, or Utah. Those are the three teams.
Our guy David Pagnotta said earlier today on NHL Network that Edmonton, Toronto, and Detroit are among the teams that will be looking to sign Aaron Ekblad if he hits free agency. So...
Edmonton can't afford Aaron Ekblad.
I mean, they're going to look at it.
They're cool. They're going to look at it and be like, oh, we don't have money for this one.
Yeah. Some of these teams that get involved in these players, I'm like, but
Toronto has 5.
you have 5 nickels available to you.
Yeah, Toronto, although they're going to have money now, Toronto already has 5 defensemen that are locked up long-term with no trade clauses or no move clauses attached to them.
I'm sure it'll be great. All right, Alex.
And the Iser plan doesn't want defense.
It's Father's Day this weekend. First of all, happy Father's Day to any of you listening right now. We can't do what we do without you being a part of the show, so we sincerely appreciate that as always and hope you have a fantastic Father's Day this weekend. Do you guys have anything planned?
No, I told Katie, asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I just want to sit home, I want to do yard work, and I just want to hang out with the kiddos outside. So we're grilling, we're doing yard work, and we're just hanging out.
I think that's pretty similar to what we're going to do. I'm going to bust out some good whiskey for Sunday and drink a couple glasses of that, and we'll do our thing.
You're invited over if you want to come hang out. I'm making brisket.
You said, oh, now that might be worth doing some yard work.
Suddenly,
No, you
he's
don't have to do
interested.
yard work. You can come
He's
over.
the pool boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen the pool.
Yeah,
I'm
but
good.
now you don't have the big pool's broken. You just got to clean the little pool.
He's got the kiddie pool.
Yeah, you just got to tip it over, dump the water out, and then fill it back
No,
up.
his role is the kids. You know how they like get into the grass and then get into the pool, and
Yeah.
there's like the grass clippings everywhere in the pool once they do that. T-Bone's job is
the
to
net.
just net all of that.
No, I'd actually like T-Bone to come over in a lifeguard outfit with the white on his nose and just sit in a chair next to my kid's kiddie pool and just have
That'd
a
be
whistle
amazing.
and blow every time they jump
running,
in it.
no
Stop
running.
Don't jump in the kiddie pool. It's not deep enough.
All right, Cardinals back in action tonight. Fetty on the mound against Peralta. Palante tomorrow versus Quintana. Michaelis against Priester. Dude, it's not great. The pitching matchups are not in your favor. How do you guys feel going into this one? 3 games before we come back on the air on Monday. We'll all be here next week. It's really the last time that we're going to be in together for a while. Friday I'll be off next week. The next Friday I'll be off. And then like T-Bone's taking some vacation time. Alex taking some vacation
a lot
time.
more.
What are you guys anticipating this weekend from the Cardinals?
I think they lose 3 or 4. I think that Sonny Gray one was the one that gave you the opportunity to at worst split with Milwaukee. But we're talking Fetty, Palante, Michaelis. It doesn't give me the warm and fuzzy feelings, especially if Donovan's back. Maybe I feel a little bit different with this, but it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies that they're going to do anything more than 2 of 4.
I was about to say, if Donovan's back starting like tomorrow, maybe you can split this thing. But if Donovan's out the next 3 games, that's going to be tough. I think you lose 3 out of 4, and then you have to stop the bleeding with the White Sox. You can't lose 2 out of 3 to them. Honestly, you probably need to sweep them to feel good about the way that this road trip has gone. T-Bone, how are you feeling going into this weekend?
I'm not feeling good. I think they probably drop 3 or 4, if not get swept. I was fearful going into this series because I don't want to be playing bad baseball going to Milwaukee, right? And you're pitching to contact, and I think they're susceptible to teams that don't have great offenses. I pointed this out in the Redbird Report on our latest episode. They gave up a ton of runs to Texas, which wasn't a great offense. They gave up a bunch of runs, though they hit for contact to the Royals, who weren't a great offense. So I'm very fearful. Even if you add Donovan to this group, I don't think it's anything about the offense. I think it's about the pitching. The starting staff has to give you a chance this weekend.
Cardinals back in action tonight. They've got 3 more games against the Brewers, a huge series for them. Saturday night, we've got Florida versus Edmonton. Alex, who do you got in this one?
I think Florida wins that one.
T-Bone?
Oilers.
I've got the Oilers as well. And then in the NBA side of things, we've got a really interesting series now with the Oklahoma City Thunder down 2-1 against Indiana. Game 4 tonight. T-Bone, who you got?
Pacers. I think they go up 3-1.
Wow. I've got OKC tonight.
Yeah,
Who
I
do you
got OKC. I think they even it up.
We'll break it all down for you guys on Monday at 11 a.m. Again, a huge shout out to all of the fathers that are in our listening audience right now. Happy Father's Day to you. Enjoy it this weekend. Take a little bit of time to enjoy yourself. We will talk to you on Monday at 11 a.m. If you have not done so yet, new Redbird Report is up for you right now. YouTube.com/101ESPN. Check that out if you would like to see 45 minutes uninterrupted of pure Cardinals conversation. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. The Fast Lane's coming up next year on 101 ESPN.